A quorum is present, so I will call this meeting of the Madison Plan Commission of July 8th, 2024 to order. First, we will hear from our technical facilitator.
All right, welcome to our virtual Plan Commission meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff, members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do the best to call on committee members in the order in which hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After all register and speak, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it in the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jesse. Next, we will go to communications, disclosures, and recusals. Patrick, did you have, Commissioner Heck, did you have something?
I just wanted to say that Commissioner Bassin is in the attendee list, but not in the panelist list. And I understand she used the link that was sent to her, and that's where she ended up.
Okay, great. So, Jesse, could you please take care of that? There she is. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Heck, for pointing that out. Appreciate it. Hi, Commissioner Bassin. Good to see you. Okay, so communications, disclosures, and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals? Seeing no raised hands. Next is public comment, and I didn't see anyone registered for public comment. Is that correct, Bill?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next, we will go to minutes. We have the minutes of the June 24th regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing no raised hands, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Alder Field, seconded by Alder Ugair. I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, July 29th, and then in August 26th, both at 5:30 and both virtual meetings. We do have a special meeting on Thursday, July 11th at 5 o'clock. That will be in room 215 of the Madison Municipal Building, and that will be in person. Okay, I'm going to go next to the consent agenda. I will read the agenda item number in and then ask if there are any requests for separation. So these are the agenda items: 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, and then 11 for referral at the request of the applicant to September 9th. Agenda item 12 and 13. Are there any requests for separation? Seeing no raised hands, I'll read each of those then into the record. So agenda item 3, Legistar 83902, reapproving the final plat of the American Center East Park 5th Edition subdivision on land generally addressed as 4846 East Park Boulevard. Alder District 17, Agenda Item 4, Legistar 83908, creating sections of the Madison General Ordinances to approve an amended specific implementation plan of a planned development district for property located at 702 University Row and 5119 Silver Tree Run, Alder District 19, Agenda Item 5, Legistar 83736, located at 2604 Winona Way, Alder District 14, consideration of a conditional use to allow construction of an accessory building on a lakefront parcel. Agenda Item 8, Legistar 83739, located at 823 East Washington Avenue, first floor, located in Alder District 6, consideration of a conditional use in the traditional employment district for a nightclub to allow an approved restaurant tavern located on the first floor of a hotel to be converted into a nightclub. Agenda Item 9, Legistar 83741, also located at 823 East Washington Avenue. This one is on the 8th floor, Alder District 6, consideration of a conditional use in the traditional employment district for a restaurant nightclub to allow an approved restaurant tavern located on the 8th floor of a hotel to be converted into a restaurant nightclub. Agenda Item 10, Legistar 83753, located at 1705 National Avenue, Alder District 16, consideration of a conditional use in the suburban residential consistent 1 district for a home occupation with outside employees. Then we have Agenda Item 11, which is for referral to September 9th, 2024 at the request of the applicant, Legistar 83269. And also on the consent agenda, Agenda Items 12 and 13, which are related, Legistar 83271, located at 2008 Winona Way, Alder District 14, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish the street-facing facade of a single-family residence. Agenda Item 13, Legistar 83735, located at 2008 Winona Way, consideration of an alteration to a conditional use to allow construction of an addition to a single-family residence on a lakefront parcel. Are there any additional comments on any of those? So it is the custom of the Plan Commission to remove from the agenda those items on which staff believes an application has had sufficient review to warrant approval with the conditions placed upon it. The applicant accepts those conditions, and there are no individuals who are registered to speak in opposition. Is there a motion on the consent agenda to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Alder Duncan. Seconded by Commissioner Mendez. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Next on our agenda under new business is Agenda Item 2, Legistar 83420, adopting the sustainability plan update and directing staff to implement the recommendations in the plan. And as people who have been on the Plan Commission for several months might recall, last year we did get some information provided by Jessica Price, who's going to be speaking to this tonight on the sustainability plan. So Jessica, please go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Jessica Price. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Manager. Here at the City of Madison, I'm also joined by Greg May, who's the Sustainability Program Coordinator on my team. We have been working on the sustainability plan for quite some time and did have the pleasure of presenting to folks on the committee back in December. So tonight I just have a short presentation that walks you kind of through the overall plan, some of the process for getting there. And then we also pulled out sort of 5 of our 24 goals that we thought were particularly relevant to the work of the commission. Just for further discussion, we would be happy to talk about any of the goals and actions that are in the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. Are you seeing my slideshow or my presenter notes?
We are seeing the notes, Jessica.
Okay, let me switch that around. How was that?
Okay, that's good.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you for helping me get that sorted. So this sustainability plan is an update to the sustainability plan that Madison has had in place for a while. The last one was updated in 2011. So it was about time that we gave it a fresh look and a fresh feel and capture some of the new work that we're doing. And so, as you know, sustainability is really at the heart of many city plans and initiatives. It's really about meeting the needs of the future or meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. As I mentioned, the city's first formal sustainability plan was released in 2004, and the most recent one was adopted in 2011. And so this plan really builds on this legacy. It brings together all of the city's sustainability goals into one place. It reflects the sustainability and climate actions that are included in many current city plans and initiatives, including the comprehensive plan, the Parks and Open Space plan, the Vision Zero Action Plan even. And then it fills in the gaps that are not already included in these other plans. It's really meant to provide this flexible framework that allows us to adapt and innovate while meeting these big picture sustainability goals for our city. And it really aims to put us on a pathway to a more sustainable, equitable, and climate resilient Madison. So the plan is divided into these 8 overall sections. So it starts out with this executive summary. If folks out there are really interested and don't have the time to sit down and read the whole plan, we've tried to make it pretty digestible, but the executive summary gives you that broad brushstrokes. It has a short introduction, and then we have these 8 goals and actions. We also talk about next steps. Our glossary and our appendices provide all of these goals and actions in one place and provide some definitions to make some of the terminology that's used in here accessible for folks that might not be familiar with some of the language that we're using. But we did work with the city's language access program to make sure that this was going to be understandable by a wide audience. The plan was developed through a pretty extensive community engagement process that would happen between May and November of 2023. We did a community-wide survey. It got more than 1,600 responses. It was available in 4 languages, Chinese, English, Hmong, and Spanish. We had 2 pop-up events that got more than 600 people to talk with us, learn more about the plan, tell us about their goals and priorities for sustainable Madison. We also had 7 focus groups that were attended by more than 60 individuals. And those focus groups were really targeting different kind of constituencies, including some of our alders. Thank you for those of you that could make it. City staff, nonprofit and CBO organizations, and youth, and so on. So the plan has, if you'll walk through each of these 8 elements, each element includes an introduction. It includes these goals related to that element, actions under each goal, and then some highlights. And these highlights are these little kind of vignettes that talk about some of the work or some of the projects that we have going on, so people can learn more about kind of some of the sustainability initiatives that are happening in the city right now. The goals really chart our future course. They're designed to be ambitious yet attainable achievements that'll help make Madison a more green and resilient place to live and work today and in the future. Each goal is accompanied by these actions. These actions are really policies, programs, and projects that together help accomplish a goal. And as new opportunities and technologies and circumstances arise, we really want to be able to adapt and pursue additional actions in service of reaching these goals. So this is not a comprehensive list of all the things that we could be doing as a city to accomplish those goals, but these are sort of starting from the beginning, things that we know we want to be pursuing right now. We have 8 elements. They're quality, affordable housing, resilient city design and infrastructure, renewable energy and decarbonization, sustainable transportation, clean abundant water, zero waste, healthy ecosystems, and vibrant green economy. The 5 goals that we're going to talk about and highlight in this presentation fall into the quality affordable housing, resilient city design and infrastructure, renewable energy and decarbonization, and vibrant green economy elements. And so I'll just walk through some of these. And like I said, these seemed quite relevant to the work of the Plan Commission, but we're happy to highlight and talk about any of the others that are in the plan. So under quality affordable housing, we have goal 1, which is focused on, we have goal 1, which is focused on increasing the availability of quality housing that's affordable to households with incomes that are at or below 60% of area median income by supporting new construction as well as preserving and improving existing housing. The focus on meeting the needs of households with incomes at or below 30% of area median income. Each goal is, you'll see, is also accompanied by a metric, so we can sort of be able to track our progress toward these goals and know how quickly we are able to meet those goals. And some of these goals are long-term. So you'll see here, we're really thinking about the number of new affordable housing units that are permitted and receiving certificates of occupancy each year. And we can look at the total as well as the number of units that are coming online inside and outside the affordable housing target areas and in each census tract, so we can see how this is changing throughout the city. We have 3 actions that are in service of this goal. 1 is using city programs and policies to create or preserve affordable rental housing with priority locations identified in the affordable housing target area map. The second is reviewing and updating the city's land banking fund policy and practices every 5 years to assess and mitigate any housing gentrification and displacement. And action, the third one under goal 1 is to ensure city programs focus on expanding opportunities for affordable homeownership. They include condominiums, cooperatives, and co-housing, also include support for energy efficiency and green building practices. Second we pulled out here is from the Resilient City Design and Infrastructure chapter or element. Goal 4 focuses on preserving, protecting, and increasing access to land for urban agriculture, particularly for community members who live in rental housing. And the metrics here are area of land in urban agriculture within the city, measuring in total and in each census tract, so we can kind of track that spatially. The action 4.1, or the first under this goal, is facilitating the location of community gardens and edible landscapes on city-owned land in collaboration with community organizations, including proactive planning on city properties. 4.2 is creating guidelines to inform both community and city decision makers regarding planning and permitting for the remaining farmland. And this is a lot of the work that is also, has a strong connection to the work of the Farmland Preservation Task Force. And so we talked with them while we were developing this section. And then 4.3 is supporting the location and development of market garden opportunities. Also in this section is goal 5, which is facilitating the development of dense, compact, and livable neighborhoods that support walking, biking, and transit use. Metrics here are included areas in each of the city's different types of zoning that would support this. And the number of neighborhood plans that include mixed-use activity centers. There are 3 actions under this goal. 1 is planning and facilitating the development of mixed-use activity centers. And those sort of providing a little bit of a definition here, featuring shops, services, employment, and green space, and a mix of housing type as identified in the growth priority areas map, the city's comprehensive plan. 5.2 is implementing our transit-oriented development zoning along bus rapid transit and other high-frequency transit service corridors. And 5.3 is encouraging the formation of transportation management associations to coordinate TDM efforts on large projects. The next section that we've highlighted is the renewable energy and decarbonization section. Goal 8 here focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions from private facilities and buildings to achieve the city's goal of reaching net zero emissions community-wide by 2050 from our 2018 baseline. Metrics here are greenhouse gas emissions from private facilities and buildings. We just wrapped up a greenhouse gas inventory for the whole community that has our 2022 emissions, and our plan is to keep doing that every 4 years. So we'll be able to track this through that inventory. Here we have several actions. One is developing a strategic pathway for reducing greenhouse gas emissions from private facilities and buildings that sets targets and interim goals through 2050. So that's really creating that specific plan on how we're going to get there. 8.2 is developing voluntary stretch energy codes to encourage energy efficiency in new buildings and facilities at such a time that's allowed by state statute. 8.3 is providing financial, structural, and process-based incentives to equitably implement energy efficiency and renewable energy measures in new and existing buildings, including connecting residents and business owners to state and federal programs. And then 8.4 is partnering with local organizations to educate private building owners and contractors on the value of energy efficiency in new and existing buildings, including energy cost savings, tenant satisfaction, retention, and real estate value. And finally, we have our vibrant green economy. Goal 22 is focused on leveraging city financial tools and structural incentives to advance environmentally sustainable and climate resilient buildings, business development, and investments in the community. And so this is really the number of projects impacted and dollars leveraged through these types of programs. So 22.1 is researching the creation of green zones within the city, which is where the city would prioritize investments to accomplish a set of sustainability, climate, or environmental justice priorities defined in collaboration with the community. This is a strategy that has been very successful in Minneapolis, and something that we're quite interested in. And Action 22.2 is using tax increment financing to incentivize climate-friendly development projects that include net zero buildings and natural climate solutions. So those are the 5 that we pulled out. Again, happy to talk about any of the goals and actions you'd like to. And I will also let you know that before preceding you in our progress through committees, we met with the Transportation Commission. They said we should pass the resolution that is before you tonight unanimously, and they added the action, which is 12.7. So it includes expanding safe routes to school, multimodal travel education, and increasing the number of students and families choosing to walk, bike, and take transit. And this is part of the Sustainable Transportation chapter. So as I mentioned, our adoption journey brings us to Plan Commission tonight. We'll be headed to Economic Development Committee on the 17th, to the Sustainable Madison Committee on the 22nd, and back to the Common Council on August 6th. So this is contact information for myself and Greg. If you want to reach out to us for anything sustainability plan related or otherwise, we would love to hear from you. With that, I would be happy to take questions, discuss anything we talked about today.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for that overview, Jessica. So I will turn to commissioners. Do you have any questions or comments for Jessica? Looking for any questions or comments? Alder Knox. I don't see.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you see me?
Yes, please go ahead. I didn't
Yeah,
see.
sorry,
your
I was
hand.
having-
Sorry about that. Go ahead,
No.
Alder Knox.
I was having problems getting the raise your hand button and stuff. So,
Okay.
but I appreciate that. I guess I had questions for the presenter. Couple of things. One of them, and I think it was goal 5, where you talked about dense, compact, livable. Can you kind of go into detail? What's your definition of dense? And the reason I'm asking the question is, a lot of the recent developments we've been having in terms of affordable housing, where we've had higher density, it's required a lot of additional city services. And so I guess I kind of want to know what your definition of dense is. And I'm still kind of curious about compact. What do you mean? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for this question. Yeah, so there's a spectrum, of course, of how of density and compactness and development, and speaking from the perspective of kind of setting citywide sustainability goals and thinking about kind of what is a lens that we can be applying as we're tailoring solutions to different parts of town. And the reason that density and compactness, so density is sort of including and bringing things close together. And I think density and compactness are pretty similar. I think that density is often used as like the number of housing units per area, and compactness is how close those housing units are often to different amenities. So how close they are to where you buy your groceries, where you go to do things for fun, how you get to work. And compactness is very closely related to environmental sustainability in a couple of important ways, particularly around climate change. And so and I would be happy to follow up with there's some really cool maps about this, and I'm kind of a big nerd for maps. And so I would be, if anyone's interested, let me know. But there's a lot of really good studies out there about the environmental footprint of people who live in different levels of density and compactness. So if you live close to where you go to spend your time, get to work, go to school, all of those things, it reduces the amount of time and resources you have to devote to travel. Transportation is the second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in our city. And so the less time people are kind of spending driving kind of conventional, gas and diesel vehicles around town, the less they're contributing to local air pollution and to climate change. The more folks can walk and bike and roll and take public transit to their the places that they need to go from their home, the lower their environmental footprint is going to be. And so that's kind of that connection between like compactness and environmental sustainability.
Okay, so you're saying that the density and compactness relates to how close they are to those kind of services that they need. Are there you have any benchmarks or standards in terms of density, in terms of population?
That's, I think, there's like different, the short answer is no, in that that is often set by like the existing development pattern for a city or a town, right? It's like we have our like current pattern, and that is sort of the template we have to work with. And so whatever it looks like to kind of create that, the closeness between where you're living and your amenities, it's going to look a little bit different for every place. And I know that like my urban planner colleagues out there probably know a lot of specifics about how this works in mid-sized cities, or how it works in big cities, how it works in the Midwest versus how it works on the coast. And so that's where you can kind of apply that lens to sort of tailor it to what sort of template you're working with in your current context.
Okay. And I really was intrigued by I think it was the goal before that talks about access to land in urban architecture. So following these guidelines, assuming that they get consummated, and I don't know if this question is for you or the Plan Commission members, but will that be something that will be incorporated when a proposed development is coming before the Plan Commission or the city, that they actually have access to green space and urban architecture opportunities? Is that the intent here?
Yeah, again, I think, and I would love to hear what you and your fellow commissioners, how you consider that in your current process, right? This is sort of building on this idea that there are lots of different kinds of amenities that are good to build in. Now, can we require those things? There's a lot of things we can and can't require. I know you all are very familiar with what that looks like, but this is really saying, hey, our community values urban agriculture. There are a lot of environmental and social benefits to having urban agriculture. And so calling that as something that our community wants to see how we can support that, it's something that we value. So this is kind of highlighting that as a value that people would like to see, that we heard from folks would like to see as part of the way that our community continues to like grow and change.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us, Alder Knox. Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. One of the goals and actions relates to coordination with Focus on Energy and their programs. And, it's my understanding that they'll be releasing a lot of the funding and new programs for the Inflation Reduction Act this fall. So I was just wondering what that coordination may, look like. Is that something that is with city staff? Is that something that is coordinated by some of the third party, like Elevate Energy, some of those groups that do work? How do you think we could better get the word out to residents and owners on those programs?
Thank you for that question. And knowing about these great incentives that are happening through the Inflation Reduction Act, it's a little bit of an all of the above, just more of a yes and to the approaches that you were asking about. So my team works a lot on getting the word out to both through a lot of different mechanisms, a lot of coordination with Focus, partly because they're administering these programs. And so anytime that we're hosting an event, we're having a meeting, we're connecting with others, we really try to highlight what is available through Focus. Even right now, Focus is our statewide energy efficiency program. And so we really try to make sure that folks know that there is money available right now. Some of the stuff that's coming down the pike this summer is specifically for residential building upgrades to improve efficiency and reduce energy bills. And so we have been coordinating with partners to get the word out about that. We've already submitted some grant applications that include work with partners to get the word out about that. We collaborate with other nonprofits to do some they work on door knocking campaigns. And we're really working on getting that information out there. We have an event coming up later this week that's been developed in partnership with Focus, with the State Office of Clean Energy and Climate, really to get the word out to developers and the development community. So we're kind of trying to do all of it. I know sometimes that means that we're stretched a little bit thin, but it's just such a really good opportunity. We are also, Gabriel Saiz on our team sits on the development assistance team meetings. And so when folks come in to talk about the early stages of new projects, we also have an opportunity to tell them about kind of sustainability projects and incentives and that are available right now, and help to navigate the complicated landscape of that a lot of the incentives for new development are coming in the form of like tax rebates, or and so getting to navigate that kind of complicated landscape of how you actually claim these rebates or these credits for new projects, I think is something that we're gonna still have to all figure out together, but we are trying to be a good resource for those folks too. So if you have anybody who has any questions or you have more questions, please do send them our way. We're really trying to stay on top of it.
Great, thank you. And I just want to add a comment that I was really impressed with your public outreach for this plan. I saw the signs and the sidewalk stamps and folks out at events. It was really cool to see.
Thank you.
Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I have maybe a comment or two, and partially to address some of what I think Alder Knox was getting at. And Jessica, I'm interested in your reaction to what my unorganized thoughts are. First, I see the plan, and I think you even said this, the update to this plan as a statement of our values with regards to sustainability, which, affects so much of what the city hopes to do in the future and what we're doing now. But, I did start thinking about, can I now say goal number 8 is a reason to approve or disapprove a development proposal? And I'd say the answer is no, but it certainly should be used to inform many aspects of what staff does and what the values should be implemented in all our other kinds of plans. And but I definitely see there's potential for contradiction between some of these, and that's healthy in my opinion. But do you agree with my ramblings there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that this is a statement. This is a statement of our values. This really sets the kind of big picture within these 8 elements. But in the real world, often we want to do our best, and we don't get to check all of the boxes, right? And so I think we should be stating our intentions and what we would like to be getting at, and knowing that sometimes, whatever conditions there are, things have to be tailored to where we are in the moment, right? Sometimes there are going to be trade-offs, and I think that's why we have committees. That's why we have staff that work with committees. That's why we have public comment, is knowing that there are going to be trade-offs with everything. I'll give you an example. Is we have a program, the Efficiency Navigator program, that works to walk folks through, provide technical support and financial support for upgrading naturally occurring affordable housing, that's multifamily housing that's affordable to folks with low incomes, and providing the kinds of building upgrades that reduce their climate impact, right? So you could get air source heat pumps or new windows or insulation or all of those things. And the gold star for doing some of this work is we want to decarbonize that building. If we were able to just make sure that building was fully electric, that is going to drive the climate impact way down, right? We're going to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from that building. It's going to be awesome. But that's going to maybe increase the utility bills for the folks that live there. And so we acknowledge that trade-off, right? From an environmental perspective, perfect. We've decarbonized the building. It's as low emissions as possible. But it's not an acceptable trade-off for us to be increasing the utility bills for the residents in that building. And so we balance those things. We say we're going to provide as much energy bill savings as we can while with these energy efficiency upgrades, right? And so that's just kind of one small example and one kind of project, but that's sort of saying we're flexible in that, and we may be able to move more into as perhaps we're able to get more renewable energy online, or we're able to add rooftop solar or something like that. Those new technology developments and innovations might let us move closer to achieving both of those goals sometimes. So, I think we shouldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here, for being able to say, yeah, we value all of these things, and we're doing our best to balance all of those values.
Thank you, Jessica. Anything else, Commissioner Heck? Alder Ugair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jessica, for that presentation. And I'm just delighted that the update really focuses on on activities and goals that are actually, for the most part, within the control of the city, as opposed to perhaps some wishful thinking about what entities that we don't control might do. In that regard, I note that for all the goals, there's an indication of lead committees or commissions or agencies and so forth that we might expect to play the primary role. Could you talk a little bit about how you see that accountability side of it might work going forward?
Yeah, this is something that we've been talking a lot about within our team, with city colleagues and other departments and divisions. We did a lot of internal outreach too, to say, hey, Fleet, your name is going to go next to some of these things. Hey, facilities or community development division. This is from a sustainability perspective, where the ship can go, and it kind of it's a group effort to be able to do that. We've also been talking about folks in the Sustainable Madison Committee about what it looks like to not let this plan kind of sit on the shelf, right? So at some point, the 2011 plan started to gather a little dust, I think, and we want to make sure that we're keeping this vibrant. We're keeping it alive. So we've been talking about, you'll see in the next step section, so we're going to be doing regular updates on the plan. So we'll be coordinating with the other city agencies that are really handling this work to check in, to say, hey, and this I think is a really great tool. The plan is a really great tool for socializing these conversations about sustainability. Like, hey, here's the big goal that's in the plan. Here's some of the actions we know you're already working on. How are those going? How is progress? What resources do you need? Can we help you with grant funding? Can we help you with coordination with other agencies or with partners in the community, so that we have these regular touch points to sort of check in and see how it's going. So we were going to have regular updates to this plan. Some of them will be, and that's also why we have the metrics as well, so that it's the 2011 plan didn't have these kind of metrics to be like, hey, how are we doing? And so that's, I think, a big improvement here, so that we can sort of see the progress that we're making. Some things are going to be easy to track annually. Some things will be tracked less frequently, like greenhouse gas emissions. We're going to be doing that every 4 years. Some things change quickly and some things change more slowly. But we're really actually pretty excited about having this tool to really come together around for the other our sort of sister agencies, and to be able to celebrate those wins, and also say, are there places where we might not be moving as quickly as we wanted to? What else can we be doing to move that along?
Thank you very much, Jessica.
Okay, I don't see any more raised hands, so I'd be looking for a motion. Bill, you had something?
Yes, there are registrants wishing to speak.
Oh,
on
I'm
this item.
sorry. I totally missed that. Thank you. Yes, we do. So the first registrant is Grace Hassler. Hamilton Street, Madison, neither support nor opposed, and wishing to speak. Grace, you have 3 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. I'm listening carefully, and I think what I mentioned in my written comments for tonight's meeting is that I really appreciate all of the work of city staff, and particularly the mayor's office on sustainability. I just wanted to speak up for myself and a project I'm working on to encourage the preservation and enhancement of tree canopy in Madison, and particularly on the Isthmus and the downtown area, to prevent us from becoming a heat island. So I wanted to actually just speak to the issue of whether or not the sustainability plan was robust enough, and particularly in timing, and whether we were taking into account the urban landscape in equal value to some of the other sustainability issues we face. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Grace. And we have another registrant, Faith Fitzpatrick, Spring Court, Madison, opposed and wishing to speak. Faith, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, yeah, so, I hate to be opposed to it, but my comments are kind of specific to the clean, abundant water and healthy ecosystem goals. And it's related to the kind of missing information that's kind of imperative for the setting that Madison is in. And it has to do mainly with the role of the greenways. And I think one of the alders mentioned it earlier about the potential for contradiction. I think the lack of detail specific to Madison for those two goals has the chance for contradiction to come up with some of the other sustainability goals. One of them being the transportation plans and prioritization over what might be more of a goal for clean water related to hydrologic connectivity. And, the connectivity with those greenways, it's kind of twofold. It's both above and below the ground. So they have a very close connection with our groundwater too, and clean groundwater, because we get so much of our water from the wells comes from superficial aquifers. So very close tie between stormwater, what's happening with stormwater, what's happening with flood management. And then along the healthy ecosystem lines, usually there's something in these sustainability plans that shows the corridor connections. So like the hydrologic connections, we have a very strong corridor connection in these greenways between the land and the lakes. Super complex ecosystems. The diversity of the ecosystems in the Madison area is huge. And it's, there's just like a paragraph on prairie and pollinators. So it's if there's any, I know it's kind of a little bit late here, but those pieces are really missing, and I'm afraid that it's just going to add to contradictions down the road. They're already happening basically. So thanks.
Thank you, Faye. Bill, were there any more registrants for this item?
Yes, there's one more. Cliff Fisher from District 2, registered in opposition and wishing to speak.
Okay, Cliff, you have 3 minutes.
Cliff, you should be seeing a prompt to unmute yourself. Maybe behind another window on your device, or
hello?
There you go.
Yes, we can hear you now.
I must have put the wrong thing down because I saw it said 2 and that I was putting it down for the porch light thing. Sorry about that.
And you wish to speak to agenda item 2, Cliff?
No, it's number 14. And
Okay. We'll note that then. Thank you. Okay, were there any other registrants, Bill, for this item? No? No. Okay, very good. Are there questions for either of our 2 registrants? I see no raised hands, so then I will be looking for a motion. Commissioner Solheim.
I'll move that the Plan Commission recommend adoption of the sustainability plan update, including the additional goal that was outlined by the Transportation Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Duncan. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Commissioner Solheim?
No, but thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments, discussion before we come to a vote? Commissioner Gare.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I had the pleasure and the excitement of working on the Sustainability Committee before this was finalized. And I think that it takes a good, healthy, productive approach to what we're trying to do with sustainability. There are things that we could have gone into considerable more detail about, but in some ways those belong to some other committees and boards and commissions and so forth. But I particularly want to emphasize what Jessica Price mentioned in terms of going forward and the efforts that will be made for all boards, agencies, departments, and commissions and so forth to remain accountable for achieving these things and looking for the best balance possible. I think we're very fortunate to have this update.
Thank you, Alder Gare. Any other comments before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. And I also would like to thank Jessica and Greg for being here tonight and for the presentation. And thank you to the Sustainability Committee for their work on this too.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Thank you all.
The next item on our agenda is Agenda Item 6, Legistar 83737, located at 3901 Packers Avenue, Alder District 18, consideration of an alteration to an approved planned mobile home park district to allow construction of the remaining phase of the Oak Park Mobile Home Park to include 80 additional manufactured homes. And first we will hear from staff member Chris Wells. Chris.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I guess I should just mention that, first of all, Katie Bannon, the city's zoning administrator, is on the call to answer questions later. But Assistant City Attorney Kate Smith provided a memo regarding the city's review process earlier, confirming that the review has been handled as a major amendment, as noted in the staff report. And several public comments have been received in the past few days. All of those have been uploaded to Legistar. And with that, I would be happy to answer questions after the public comment.
Okay. Thank you. So we do have several registrants. I will open the public hearing. The first registrant is Marcia Cannon, Cherokee Circle, Madison, opposed and wishing to speak. Marcia, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. It was very interesting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It was interesting to hear the comments about the sustainability plan because, and I appreciate Pat Heck asking the question, should we be referring to that plan when we're approving projects? And the answer is, it's a statement of intentions. Well, I'm wondering about the intent of this proposal to put 80 mobile homes on a park that has 35 oak trees to be torn down. There goes your environmental impact. But bottom line, the location is not compatible with residential occupancy per the Federal Aviation Administration because it lies completely within the 65 decibel noise exposure contour from aircraft operations at the airport. I sent out a PDF map with a circle of where this is located. It's completely within that district. Do you support endangering the health of people who will live in a location not compatible with residential use? Even if it's affordable, it's dangerous to people. Excess noise can cause stress-related illness, high blood pressure, speech interference, hearing loss, sleep disruption, and lost productivity. Furthermore, FAA does not provide noise mitigation for mobile homes. And here you are asking to put new mobile homes without, I have seen no mention of insulation or attempt to reduce the noise level. So I urge you to vote no on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. The next registrant is Ryan Quam, Sigelcow Road, McFarland, in support and available to answer questions, and Ronald Vaughn, State Highway 25 Northeast, Monticello, Minnesota, in support, available to answer questions, representing Lakeshore Management. Are there questions for any of our registrants? Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I have a question for, it may be Ronald Vaughn, because I believe he's part of the applicant team, or Ryan Quam, whichever is willing to answer a question. I'll ask my question and they can decide who wants to answer. I guess I am interested in the noise mitigation question, and I think that's unfortunate if mobile homes are not to be included in any FAA noise mitigation funding. What can you tell us about anything that you might be doing to make life a little more bearable for people inside the 65 dB contour?
It looks like Ryan wants to answer. And first, Ryan, would you clarify who you are, since your registration indicated you weren't representing anybody? I think you might be the developer or representing the developer.
Yeah, hopefully everyone can hear me. And maybe I filled out the application incorrectly. I'm Ryan Quam with Quam Engineering. So I'm working with the developer and have provided the site plan submittal.
Okay, thank you.
So I apologize for that. And I did ask, I didn't know if I should answer that question of Ron. So if Ron would like to chime in, that'd be great, because I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this question from a civil engineering standpoint. But I will say that there are, a number of other manufactured housing units in that area, and I'm not aware of there being any like noise related issues with existing units.
Could we get Ron up to respond to the question also?
Chair, I don't see a person by that name in attendance.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. So I guess that's all we get, Commissioner Heck.
Okay, thanks. I'll consider my question somewhat unanswered.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. I think that Ryan Quam should be able to answer this as civil engineer. One of the comments was related to stormwater and part of the facility being located off of the property, which is something to be addressed with staff as part of the process after this meeting before a permit is issued. I just wanted to confirm that you understood that condition and can accommodate stormwater on the site.
Yes, yeah, we received those comments a little early from staff, and I have already revised the plans to have the pond, fully on the property. So I believe I can address the stormwater related comments.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you. Ryan, I'm hoping that you can answer this, but I understand if not. I noticed in some of the comments there were concerns about a lack of storm shelters available in the area. And I'm just wondering if there's any consideration to add that to the plan, or any awareness of what current residents are doing in the event of severe inclement weather.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't think I can answer that. And I might have missed that when I was going through my review. So yeah, I apologize. I'm not aware of any ideas for additional storm shelters.
All right, thank you.
Are there further questions? Commissioner McCahill.
Thank you. I'm not sure, Ryan, if Ryan will be able to answer this, but I was looking in the plans and the parking. It looks to me like there will be about 2 on-street spaces in front of each home, and then another maybe 80-ish spaces on Flamingo Lane. Are you able to speak to the need for that level of parking, and if there's any sort of existing regulations about how people can store vehicles, or how those are divvied up?
Maybe a little bit. I will say that in the initial discussions with Kevin Furco, city planning, this was kind of an irregular product or for the city, but in essence, we're kind of almost completing the initial intent for this area. But for whatever reason, we had to go through this process. But yeah, so these infill lots have 2 stalls in front of each unit, similar to how all the previous, surrounding areas to the east and south have that amount of stalls in front of the units. And those parking stalls that are like those 8 extra parking stalls that you referenced, those are already right there. And so I think they're kind of more like overflow areas. I can't speak to how frequently they're used, but I mean, really, we're just putting paint lines on an existing pavement. But I would imagine that there's going to be certain instances where they're going to need overflow parking, and that would be the only location to provide that.
Yeah, I see that now. Thanks.
Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. Sorry, that triggered another question or two. Speaking of the parallel parking, one of the comments, public comments, was related to sight lines from the stop signs and pedestrian safety. And I noticed the parallel parking stalls are going right up to the intersections. And just wondering if you are aware of kind of any guidelines for that, and if you'd be open to removing a parking stall at the end so that there's better sight lines between the one-way streets and the two-way streets.
I mean, I do think there's a desire to keep the 2 stalls in front of each unit. On the east side, I would argue there's not really any sightline issues because there's, the stalls are kind of inset behind the overflow parking we were just talking about. And yeah, so there might be like maybe 4 stalls that we're talking about. I could talk to the applicant and see how they feel, and maybe talk to staff more about how concerned they are about these turning movements. But again, this layout is very similar to what is happening on all the other streets. So we're trying to mimic it, and I'm not aware of any issues with the other streets.
Yeah, that's why I raised it. A resident that lives there raised it as a concern.
Okay.
And then just one other question regarding the trees. Did you, with your work, survey trees, and is it conclusive that none of those can be saved, or how much has that been reviewed?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a decent amount of discussion regarding the trees just internally, and we had a landscape architect weigh in on that and provided that kind of his comments to city staff. I don't know if that was included in the background for this project, but in general, yeah, there are some oak trees out there. There's also been a number of oak trees that have limbs have been falling, and trees that have had to come down recently. So they've discovered that a lot of the trees that are out there have had hollowed out conditions, and so that's kind of why they were falling down. And then also just the general nature of oak trees. If you disturb or compact the soils within so many feet of the root zone, those trees are going to die. So in order to save like one of those oak trees, you almost have to have let's just say 150-foot radius of kind of non-impact. So the goal is to remove the oak trees and move forward with this development, and then replace those oak trees with younger trees to kind of start the process over. But yeah, they really can't be saved and allow this development to happen at the same time.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
Commissioner Basine.
I read in public comment, there was some concern about the pipes and infrastructure currently, and I'm curious, and there was some concern about it, with the additional units, how the current issues with the pipes would be addressed, and if they might be exacerbated. And I'm curious what the plans are, if there's any plans for new pipes.
So you might be discussing the kind of some of the fire department comments, and we have made some adjustments since the plan was sent out, where we widened up the right of way or fire lane, allowed for a fire lane on Kildare Lane to allow for fire hose lengths to meet the fire department requirements. And then, or you might be talking about stormwater and just the dense nature of this site. That was an engineering comment, and that one as well. I'm confident we can address with some ditching and some storm sewer.
Could you clarify what you are asking about, Commissioner? I'm not sure that he's getting to your.
Yeah, it was a comment from somebody who lives in the residence who was talking about the water supply to homes.
So yeah, I mean, my understanding is there's sufficient water pressure on Packers Avenue, and yeah, we're proposing sufficient pipe sizes to the new units. I'm not familiar with the water service sizes to the older units, but I will say that the newer units are very close to the 10-inch or 12-inch main on Packers Avenue. So they shouldn't have any issues that might be experienced on other units. Yeah, there's a 12-inch line on Packers Avenue, which should be able to provide very good water pressure.
Did you have any follow-ups, Commissioner? Okay. Are there any further questions of our registrants? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Chris Wells.
Just a note, I forgot to mention in my overview, there was an addendum to the traffic engineering's comment. Basically, the amount of sidewalk that they are requesting to have added as part of this project is reduced, and there is the addendum was uploaded to the public record. I can read it if you like, but I just wanted to make the commission aware of that.
Thank you, Chris. Questions of staff? Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. Chris, I'll start with you, and I'm not sure if anybody else, any other staff members in the meeting have anything to say about this or not, but you know, I know that we've oftentimes approved housing developments, new housing developments within the 65 dBZ contour line at the airport, and generally we have relied on the fact that there will be noise mitigation funds from the FAA. I know the council in the past has declined to take a firm position on whether or not we can or can't or should or shouldn't approve or deny housing development proposals based on whether or not they're inside of the 65 dBZ line. But in this situation where there's not FAA money involved and apparently no mitigation, I'm wondering if you have thoughts about the appropriateness of requiring such a thing.
I would defer to Katie Bannon, but my colleague who did the staff report on this, and I believe it was noted in Assistant City Attorney Kate Smith's email in a memo that I guess it's a tricky situation because the permits could be issued today to build mobile home units, as long as they comply with relevant ordinances like the building code and fire code. And so it's not a situation where they're getting approval to build units where there wasn't one before. It's just amending the layout of the lots and the amount of mobile home units. I don't know if Katie has any thoughts.
Katie, do you have anything to add? You're muted, Katie.
Hello?
Okay, now good.
Okay. Sorry, I have a new mic and it's a little, actually, it's not even. Could you hear me? Oh, much better. Okay, at least for me. Great. Yeah. So, this is kind of an unusual request for this group because we don't see mobile home parks very often. We're not seeing new ones. It's pretty rare someone's going to come in with a change like this, major alteration to the existing mobile home park PD is really what's happening here. So they want to change the configuration, the number of streets. And so that's why this is before you. So it's a little bit different than like approving a new subdivision plat. There's a lot of flexibility in these mobile home sites, just generally. State law requires us to look at them a little bit differently. There's some protections to allow some changes in configuration for things like the separations that are required, or recognizing there are different types of mobile homes and agreements with mobile home owners. But because they are changing like the layout with the street grid that was approved initially back in the 1960s, pre-1966, with the SIP approved in 1974. This is back before you. So it's honestly, it's a little bit strange to file because this is one of the first PDs we really ever did as a community. So it doesn't have the level of detail we're used to with old PDs or with PDs today. So a lot of what we're doing is changing that configuration of the streets and looking at a really, really old site plan for like, okay, here was what was kind of used to be approved. And now we're going to have something more solid based on standards for today.
Thank you, Katie.
That, believe it or not, that was helpful.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have any follow-up or any further questions, Commissioner Heck?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. I have two questions. One, just confirming that although this may be a major alteration of an old plan, it's still subject to all current ordinances, permit requirements, code requirements. So like our stormwater ordinance, for example, would apply to this. Is that correct?
That's
Chris,
my understanding.
Or
but Chris
Katie?
probably knows better than I do.
Okay. Chris, you concur
Did
with
you have
that?
anything to add there?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's we had the whole group of agencies review to make sure it met whatever would be triggered with this for their ordinances.
Thank you. And then just following up on my question earlier related to the public comment, would there be any concerns about adding a condition to, look at adjusting the parallel parking to improve sightlines and pedestrian safety? Do you see any issues with that condition?
Chris, Katie?
Chris, do you have thoughts? I mean, it's hard to have kind of a wishy-washy condition in some ways on that because it's like, well, what if they come back and say, no, we can't do that? Like if we're just asking them to consider it, it's a little.
Can I just make it a requirement then? Remove parallel parking stalls next to stop signs to improve sightlines?
It's strange that traffic engineering didn't add any conditions related to that. I mean, the vision triangles are something that they would review. I'm assuming they did. I mean, this came to DAT several months ago. I don't know if I can stall long enough to find that file of the staff comments, but regardless, they didn't add any conditions related to that.
I'm just wondering if it was, it's usually that's reviewed as when it's access to a public street, but these are interior private streets, so may not have been subject to the same thing. So perhaps you could just add language to have traffic engineering review that to confirm vision triangles are met, something like that.
Yeah, and simply because TE didn't put that in doesn't mean that plan commissioners cannot put something like that in if you see that as being a safety issue that we should address.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alder Ugair.
Thank you, Chair. The question came up, I think, from one of the commissioners. Well, let me back up and just say that I know a little bit about mobile homes. I've probably been president of a company which produced 10,000 of them approximately. So I'm fairly familiar with the regulations concerning them. And this is one of those cases, and I think, Katie, you pointed this out, that we're just looking at the reconfiguration of an approved plan. We're not in a position because of the federal preemption under the HUD code to get into the specifications of the homes themselves and so forth. But I believe that, and this is a question for Katie. We did not get an answer, as I recall, as to about any storm shelter safety. That was apparently a question left unknown here. Are you, or do we have somebody who would be familiar with Wisconsin law or Madison law on the provision of storm shelters, which is probably, especially in this era of stronger storms, which we're expecting to have, and higher winds, probably one of the riskier situations faced by the residents in this whole community. Do you know anything about the storm shelter provisions here in this development?
I don't. Building Inspection Director Matt Tucker is on the call. I'm not sure he has additional information to add on those lines.
Yeah, hi folks. Good evening. Nice to see y'all. This matter actually came up. I was discussing this with former Alder Abbas, who had some curiosity about new parks as they were created, because storm shelters are seven-figure buildings. The city built one for the mobile home park down off of Moreland Road 10-ish years ago with a federal grant, because that site didn't have a storm shelter. Most of them don't. And so we made a park shelter / storm shelter with federal monies. But there isn't a requirement necessarily. Anytime we're dealing with this, we do have curiosities for folks that are in the type of situation where inclement weather can affect their housing. Like, what is their plan? And I know I've talked to some of the residents out there, and they have some sort of informal plan or a plan of how they're going to deal with or communicate with the residents when they need to evacuate because of inclement weather. And that's about as good as it gets. Our expectation, if anybody is going to be building a new mobile home park, is that they would be incorporating an emergency shelter in as part of it, because that's kind of like a basic fundamental thing that you need if you're ever going to build a new one today. But no one has approached us about building a new one. We've just had some alterations to the existing ones.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any further questions of staff? I have one of Katie. One of the letters that we got raised a density question. Could you speak to that? Is the proposed density in compliance with zoning?
Yeah, so this is something zoning would check as part of final sign-off to make sure that they meet the density requirements. I don't think we have, as part of the applicant materials, like an overall site layout that shows all the sites in the area of all the mobile home sites, but we would want to look at that and make sure we have that minimum square footage per dwelling unit. It shouldn't meet just based on, we have some information in our 1985 file where we had those same standards in place. But I don't have that information at this time to say it complies. They certainly couldn't increase the degree of nonconformity if there is any nonconformity.
Okay, because the assertion was that it was double the allowed density, what is being proposed. So you're saying that if indeed that is what is being proposed here, even if the Plan Commission chooses to approve this, then zoning would say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that. Is that correct?
I think it could be an issue. This whole file just through and through is really unusual. So even like in 1985, there's a rezoning from right here, MHP, Mobile Home Park, GDP SIP to an amended MHP SIP. It appears that was only just for some maybe financial requirement to clarify or correct the file for their financing, best we can tell. And then that information doesn't refer to the 1985 zoning code. It refers to the plans that were approved on file at that time. We don't have the level of detailed files I typically want to see. If these if they'd be increasing the degree of nonconformity, and again, I haven't seen a full site layout of what they have today, number of sites, area of those sites, square footage of those sites, we would need to make sure they're not increasing that degree of nonconformity.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. Are there further questions of staff? Alder Ugair.
A question for Katie. Would this project benefit from more time for staff to complete a review?
I don't think that's necessary. Of course, that could be something the Plan Commission could put out there if they'd like to, but it's very typical that we get more detail as part of that final sign-off process, and at that time verify that all the standards are met when we have that level of detail.
Thank you.
Further questions of staff? Seeing no raised hands, we need a motion. Commissioner Solheim.
I will move that the Plan Commission find the approval standards for plan development are met and approve the alteration of the planned mobile home park district for 3901 Packers Avenue to amend the approved site plan subject to the conditions in the staff report addendum dated July 8th, and the additional condition that the applicant work with traffic engineering to eliminate parallel parking if needed to create appropriate vision triangles for pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Field. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Commissioner Solheim?
No, thank you.
Okay. Are there comments, discussions, input before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is Agenda Item 7, Legistar 83738, located at 5152 Spring Court, Alder District 19, consideration of a conditional use to allow construction of an addition to a single-family residence on a lakefront parcel. And unless I would look to the commission, do you want a presentation on this, or shall we go to public comment? Do you want a presentation? Doesn't look like it. So we will go to public comment. I will open the public hearing. There is a registrant wishing to speak, Faith Fitzpatrick on Spring Court in Madison, in support and wishing to speak. Faith, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thanks. I live at 5156 Spring Court, so on the south side of the 5152, and I generally approve the plans, but I need to mention some details about the drainage in the side yard. There's kind of 4 things, and I wrote up the comments on it that describe these. First off, it's a narrow side yard, and it's a sloped lot from the road to the lake. So the drainage is really important. So these comments have to do with the drainage. First off, there is not 10 feet in between the garage and the lot line. It's actually 7 feet, so that's a mistake on the design plans. There's also 2 different roof lines for the garage on page 2 and 3 of the plans, and one provides more runoff than the other. The addition has the roof line of the addition, about 2/3 of it slopes towards the side yard. So the main point then is to make sure that the land elevation and the existing swale is preserved and even expanded so that all the stormwater generated by the roof, whatever that line is, stays on 5152 and doesn't come into my yard. The other possible obstruction, there's a garage door on the south side that may have some kind of ramp. And I talked to the landowner about these issues, including this one, and he was planning on having some sort of access that wouldn't block the drainage. But I really want to mention this because I didn't do this with the garage that was put in last year at 5158 Spring Court, and I'm dealing with runoff problems from that. So just want to bring those attention to details with this particular plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Faith. We have one more registrant, Gary Arswold, Curry Lane, Janesville, in support and available to answer questions. Are there questions for either of our registrants? Commissioner Solheim.
I think that Gary may be builder, owner, and if so, I would have a question for Gary. Gary, can you confirm if you are the builder?
I'm not the builder. I'm the designer. The builder happens to be my son, so you're close.
Great.
And I actually received the letter from Faith today, and so we'll start with the garage door. The garage door is actually not a garage door. It's a garage door that he's using to move in and out a kayak. There's going to be actually steps in front of the door. The grade that's there is staying the same. We're not altering the grade down the side of the house whatsoever. So that stormwater that comes through there is going to stay where it is now. The roof water that we're going to be pulling off with the gutter system will be taken and kept on his property also. So she won't have to worry about it going down that swale line. It's not going there. So we'll make sure that stays away from her property so she doesn't have any issues with it. I feel sorry for her because I've had the same situation where somebody builds next door and they put the grade in wrong or whatever, and I have a mess to deal with, and that's no fun. So we will make sure in the design that is all taken care of. And my original plot plan, which was a preliminary one that I could only do off of the GPS stuff that's available, had the 10-foot that she was talking about, but we've actually done a site survey has a certified survey map that's going to be filed for our easement for the sewer, which we have to do, and it actually does show 7 foot on the side of it. She is correct. So the garage does have 7 foot on the side. And the staff already has that. We submitted that to the staff, so they have that survey map already.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Gary. I just wanted to clarify then, thank you for your explanation. If you would be willing, I know not all of this information may be available right now with your level of detail in the plans, but if you could share with the city staff as part of the final approval process and therefore with the neighbor information on where the downspouts will be located and the elevations of the new addition to show how stormwater will be managed.
Yeah, we'll be more than happy to do that. And I can, if I get her contact information, or I can just stop over and drop her off a plan and go over it with her if she'd like. I have no problem with that.
Thank you, Gary. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Solheim. Are there other questions of either of our registrants? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Seeing no raised hands, I'm looking for a motion. Alder Ugair.
Actually, I had a comment or question of staff first that I was slow.
Please go ahead.
My question, would it be appropriate to add a condition just for the benefit of staff to carry through with what we just heard from the builder and the concerns from the neighbor, that final designs will verify that stormwater drainage remains on the property?
It sounds like that was something that the applicant designer is comfortable with. So I think that would probably be fine. Do you have any problem with that, Chris? Okay. Yeah. So sounds like that would be a reasonable additional condition.
All right. So,
did you wish to make a motion then, Alder Ugair?
I can do that. And so I will move that the conditional use for the construction of an addition to the single family residence on lakefront parcel at 5152 Spring Court with conditions, including the added condition that final plans will show that all stormwater drainage will be retained on that parcel, be approved.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mendez. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Alder Ugair?
I think I've said enough.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, input? Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I saw that Gary had his hand up while Alder Ugair was crafting his condition, and I wondered if it would be appropriate to ask him if he did have some input on the language that was being considered. If he doesn't raise his hand, then I'll withdraw that request.
I don't see that he's raising his hand.
Okay.
Okay, then. Any other discussion or comments? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. The next are 3 items that are related, agenda item 14, 15, and 16, and we'll consider those as one public hearing. Following the public hearing, the Plan Commission will make separate findings and motions on each agenda item. Agenda item 14, Legistar 83525, located at 521 East Washington Avenue, Alder District 6, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a 2-story commercial building. Agenda item 15, Legistar 83526, same location, consideration of a conditional use in the urban mixed-use district for a new building greater than 20,000 square feet or more than 4 stories to allow construction of an 8-story mixed-use building containing approximately 3,800 square feet of office space and 70 apartments. Agenda item 16, Legistar 83530, approving a certified survey map of property owned by LZ LLC located at 521 East Washington Avenue. And we we'll get a presentation from Chris Wells. Chris.
Good evening again. Just a few notes before I hand it over to the applicant team. First of all, we have Central District Captain Kamansky on the call this evening, and the captain can speak to the security concerns. On that related note, there were several public comments that have been received, several in the past few days. Those have been uploaded to Legistar for your review. And also, the Parks Division there was a staff report addendum. Basically, there was a review that was closed out by the Parks Division when they had a few comments related to the park impact fees. So there are 3 additional comments that need to be added to the record. And with that, I would be happy to answer questions after the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. I will open the public hearing, and we did have a request from the applicant to pool 3 of the applicant team's time, so they will have a total of 9 minutes. So John Leger, Carla Thiens, and Dwayne Johnson. So first, John Leger, LZ Ventures, Surrey Lane, Wanakee, support wishing to speak. John.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try to be brief. This project's probably, 15 or 16 years in the making. And when we first started to develop what is now Grand Central Apartments, my business partner, Brad Zellner, and I started a relationship with the then director, Steve Schooler. It's been a wonderful relationship for all these years. Every handful of years, whenever there's a need with Brook Street, we always think about, well, is there another place to build a new building? Because as Carla will talk about, Brook Street has its limitations. Well, while we were doing the project that is now the Continental Apartments, the site, formerly the Monarch Clinic, became available, and the underlying zoning fits really well with what we're trying to do there. The adjacencies, the BRT, the retail corridor are all quite nice for trying to create a permanent housing situation in an affordable setting. Brook Street's kind of in an island in the middle of campus, whereas this is definitely connected to a wonderful neighborhood. So with that, I would turn it over to Carla, and she can give you Porchlight's perspective.
Okay, the next person to speak is Carla Thiens, representing Porchlight.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Tennis, and I'm the Executive Director for Porchlight. We've reviewed all of the staff conditions and have no objections. We will incorporate these into our plan going forward. We have several items that we currently do at our Brook Street housing that we will transfer over to the Blair Street facility, and that's including use of a resident manager on site, emergency call service for after hours and weekends, extensive security cameras and 24-hour access to all security videos in real time by Porchlight staff. As the executive director for Porchlight, I want to dispel any rumors that this is a situation in which the big bad housing developer comes in and tricks a nonprofit into selling them their prime piece of real estate. In fact, I have been meeting with Porchlight's board of directors, our property development committee, for the past 3 years on what to do about our aging Brook Street building. It is a building that has met our needs in the past, but has now outlived its usefulness. The maintenance needs, the capital improvements, items that still need to happen now and in the future. And the biggest one, that the building needs to be retrofitted for sprinklers, is all cost prohibitive. The Blair Street facility will house all of our administrative staff, in addition to 70 efficiencies for our residents. Switching from single rooms with shared kitchen and baths at Brook Street to full efficiencies at Blair Street is significant for our residents, many of whom are elderly and have disabilities. This will greatly improve their quality of life. In addition, the close access to grocery stores and employment opportunities and healthcare clinics would be a great benefit to them. And finally, I would like to say that this is not just any developer to Porchlight. LZ Ventures has been our close neighbor for 15 years. We have successfully partnered with them on several projects. They have financially supported many of our programs. And as a result of this, we have developed a relationship based on trust. And I think all of that is very important to ensure the success of this permanent housing project. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. The next person to speak in this group is Dwayne Johnson, Greenway Boulevard, Middleton, in support. Kanothi Bruce Architects. Dwayne.
Thank you. 521 East Washington is highlighted here in yellow. We're on the corner of East Washington and Blair Street. Directly adjacent to us is the Wisconsin Manufacturing and Commerce Building. Their parking lot goes around the two non-street sides of our project. Next slide, please. Can we switch to the next slide?
Sorry, I'm trying. It's not advancing. Of course.
I can keep talking while you.
There we're going. We got it. Thanks, Dwayne.
So this one is actually the east. This is the other presentation, the Brook Street. Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. Sorry, my bad. So the site is approximately 1/4 of an acre. The clips that were shown on the previous slide show that we're in the downtown plan boundary and within the downtown core section of that boundary. The plan identifies our site as a redevelopment site, and it's recommended for 8 stories. The site is currently zoned UMX, which we would keep that zoning. In addition to the CSM and demolition approval, we are requesting conditional use approval for building size and height. Next slide. The 1980s existing 2-story building can be seen here. It's currently the Monarch Health Building. Continental, which is also owned and managed by LZ, is the big building in the back across East Washington. And the BRT station can be seen in that picture B as well. The other context includes older 2-story structures on Blair Street, which are in the remaining photos. Next slide, please. Our proposed building is an 8-story building. We're pushing the building towards the street corner with the main entry on East Washington and Blair. There's access to 8 employee parking stalls off of Blair in the rear of the building. 5 of those are tucked under the second floor. We have a roughly 450 square foot plaza on the southwest corner of the property. This would be for tenants and employees. And we're working with traffic engineering to create an easement area on much of the Blair Street to frontage to allow a sidewalk and terrace expansion, which would hopefully allow street trees on that street. And then we have extensive perimeter landscaping between the building and sidewalk on both street elevations. Next slide, please. Here are our plans. The first floor and the basement would house Porchlight's administration functions. Those are shown in pink and a green color. We would also house a lot of our required bikes within the basement, which is shown in gray. Floors 2 through 8 would generally stack, and those are shown on the right side of the screen. Each floor would have 10 efficiency apartments with a shared laundry on each floor. The images above are the beginning of our unit layouts. We would have 3 different types of efficiency unit layouts. Next slide, please. This is a view from the corner of Blair in East Washington. It's a very important corner to the city, and we are very purposely emphasizing that corner as the entry into the building and our most significant architectural statement. We're continuing to work with urban design on the final design of this corner. The building would be anchored in a durable masonry base, exaggerating the uniqueness of the first floor office and community areas, and allowing larger windows to add natural light into those offices. The remaining massing is intentionally more subdued but still purposeful. We are pushing and pulling the corners to create logical massing opportunities for material and color changes at the building plane change locations. Next slide, please. This is a view from Blair Street. You can see the parking I mentioned earlier tucked under the second floor. Near the center is a material change. This is exaggerating the uniqueness of the stair tower windows and creating a logical place to split the building into 2 symmetrical masses. Next slide, please. Since we're a Capitol view corridor, our submittal included several long views. This is one of those. This would be from the corner of Blount looking towards the Capitol. Next slide, please. We are planning durable yet affordable materials that have a proven track record. These would include a brick masonry base and 3 Kynar finished metal panels, which are very durable finishes and are resistant to fading and require little maintenance. We are all excited about this project and the opportunity it presents for Porchlight to be able to successfully provide their services to the Madison area for years to come. We thank you for your time and welcome your feedback and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dwayne. Our next registrant is Dan O'Callahan, West Washington Avenue, Madison, representing LZ Ventures. Dan, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm an attorney with the Carlson Black Law Firm here in Madison, and I specialize in the areas of land use and zoning law. I'm appearing tonight as a member of the applicant team, and I want to just begin my brief comments tonight by thanking city staff for all of the work that they've done reviewing the applications that are the subject of tonight's public hearing. As noted, there are 3 specific applications you're considering tonight for this site: a demolition permit, a conditional use approval, and a certified survey map. Based on the review that was done and based on the legal standards in the city's code of ordinances, the city's professional planning staff are recommending approval of each of these applications, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. On behalf of the applicant team, I want to confirm for the Plan Commission and for the record that we have reviewed the recommended conditions and we agree to meet each of them. As Dwayne was just noting, this is a really exciting project. It will further the city's environmental and land use goals in terms of locating dense new development along a primary transit corridor, and it's going to add to the affordable housing stock serving our growing population, all without a single dollar of public subsidy, we should note. But most importantly, at least for purposes of tonight's meeting, this project meets each of the legal standards for approval as summarized in the staff report. Now, we acknowledge there are some interested parties who have expressed some reservations about the people who might live in this building. I want to caution that, however well-intended those concerns might be, they have no basis in the law. And in fact, our laws run to the contrary. We have a robust set of fair housing laws that seek to protect housing opportunities for vulnerable and marginalized populations, not limit them. The project before you tonight is a mixed-use building with apartments and offices in an area of our downtown that is planned and zoned for mixed-use buildings with apartments and offices. Because the application before you tonight satisfies the applicable land use standards, we're asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Our next registrant is Garrett Chalmers, East Washington Avenue, Madison, opposed and wishing to speak. Garrett, you have 3 minutes.
Chair, there's no person by that name, but I speculate maybe that one of these numbers might be. So I'm going to allow them to talk and see if we can see if this is Garrett.
Well, we do have somebody registered named Scott Chalmers, so I don't think that this is the right one.
No, is this Scott or Garrett?
This is actually Scott. I heard you talking about my son, but he couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Okay. The reason why I did that is there was a phone and also someone that came in via computer. So I just wanted to check, but thanks for clarifying.
Okay, Scott, go ahead. Since you are registered, East Washington, Madison, opposed and wishing to speak. So Scott, you have 3 minutes. Scott, unmute yourself and go ahead and speak.
Okay, can
Yes.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I love all the development down East Wash. I've actually spent 3 years kind of suffering a little bit with all the road changes and the bus movement and everything. But I have to say one thing: there is not a day that goes by, and I can send current pictures to anyone as we speak. I have people laying with luggage on my front porch in front of my front door, laying on where my trash cans and everything in our front door is to that building. This is going on over and over again. And I don't know if a lower income type housing is a good idea, simply because of what Beacon and what Salvation Army and what the other center that's 2 doors down from me, I forgot what they call it, but where prisoners come and they, ex-prisoners, and they have parole officers, okay? So I am getting inundated with cleaning up every single day around our facility. I'm talking feces wipes. I'm talking bottles. It's not a day goes by that we have to ask people to leave, call the police, or clean up a mess. And I'm just saying, why are we bringing a lower income down to downtown Madison? I guess I don't understand that reasoning. Okay. I understand the transit system you're doing. And the thing about that is we watch it every day. The average of about 6 people are on the bus every day. Okay. And what it's unfortunate, the people that are waiting for the bus that's right in front of my store, they can't even go inside that little shelter because the homeless are camping out in that shelter. They're not even going in it. They're afraid to go in it. So bringing more lower income to the downtown Madison when you've got $2,000 to $8,000 a month rentals across the street, right down the street from me, and go the other way too by Festival Foods and all those higher end condos and everything. And now you're bringing just the opposite, okay, into downtown Madison. These people are not going to be able to shop at Festival Foods. They're not going to be able to shop at our jewelry store. They're not going to be able to shop and support all the businesses up and down East Wash. This is something we need to consider. You've got all these beautiful hotels now, the Moxie. You've got all these, the AC. You've got all these places, okay, where you've got this thing, these type
Scott,
of...
that concludes your available time. Thank you.
All right.
The next registrant is Sherry Carter. Madison in support and wishing to speak, representing Porchlight. Sherry, you have 3 minutes, and welcome to the Plan Commission.
Well, thank you very much, Waddell and commissioners. I did send a brief letter of support earlier this afternoon, and I just want to reiterate that this is a fantastic opportunity for not only our residents who are long-term residents and Porchlight and the city. I think that having efficiencies that are low rent is important, even in downtown Madison. If you recall, I shouldn't say many years ago, but a few years ago, Austin, Texas did the same thing in creating affordable housing. Theirs was multifamily, but affordable housing in downtown. And it has really improved downtown. They have the ability to go to the farmer's market on Saturday and the various things that happen on East Washington, especially now, is valuable for everyone who lives on East Washington. And our residents deserve that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. The next registrant is Kurt Brink, East Washington Avenue, Madison, in support and wishing to speak. Kurt, you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I've been involved in buildings on the 600, 700, 900 block of East Washington for over 20 years. I am for the new Porchlight apartment building at 521 East Washington Avenue. The fact that it is 70 apartments with kitchens and bathrooms in each one, and also there is laundries in each floor, is a positive. Also, the new administration headquarters for Porchlights will be on the first floor of the building every day. Some of us from East Washington business and buildings have had several meetings with Carla, the executive director of Porchlight. These meetings have given me the confidence that the new building will be well managed and run. I also believe that the security concerns raised by the police staff and police department, which Dan O'Callaghan has just stated, they'll follow all those rules. We have We've asked Executive Director Carla to have 2 resident managers at all times, and she agreed to it. So that takes care of any concerns that basically there is somebody watching our building 24 hours. And I think this is very positive what they're doing, and I like the fact that people will have their own apartment to live in. LZ Ventures are good developers and owners and managers of properties of buildings in the Madison area. Also across the street from the new Porchlight, LZ Ventures is the one that developed that very attractive building. They develop it, control it, and manage it. Continental. And it's been a great addition to East Washington Avenue. Porchlight will be a good addition because there will be a full-time ownership of the new property. And Carla said she will be involved with us on the East Washington business and interact with us at all times. And because of the fact that dealing with Carla, the executive director, and Porchlight, and that there's good developers, this should be a positive asset to East Washington Avenue. It's not a drop-off shelter. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Do we have any other registrants wishing to speak, Bill?
Yes, we have 2 additional registrants wishing to speak. And if you'd
go
like me
ahead
to,
with those?
sure. The next one is Lupe Montez, District 2, registered in opposition and wishing to speak.
Lupe, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lupe Montez. I live next to a Porchlight house property right on Mifflin and Hancock. While everything sounds nice for the property on East Wash, my concern is this is the entrance to the Capitol Square. It's the entrance to our city. I feel that Porchlight can't manage a 3-unit. I want to understand how they're going to manage a 70-unit with people living there, and possibly businesses on the lower level. And the reason I say this is because I can't sit in front of my porch. I'm at 108 North Hancock, and I can't sit because I need to repeatedly call and communicate with Porchlight and my alder about the garbage that's never thrown out. I can't open my windows because of the stench that comes into my house from next door. I've been living there, my husband and I, for 16 years. This past week was the first time that any of the nonprofits who have been managing that property have actually done something as far as cleaning up, de-weeding, painting. Just this weekend, I had to call the police because there is drug use, there's drug sales. There was a very young girl that was going into seizures. She was higher than a kite. And when I tried to assist her, she told me to mind my own business. And I told her, you're on camera. I'm calling the cops, and you're high, and you really should take care of yourself. I told her, she's a beautiful woman, young girl. I called the cops. They never came. So I have a concern about that too. I could not have family over on Father's Day because of the trash that was next door to my house. And I walk outside my front door, and that's what I see. I see garbage that has not been put to the curb in months. I have pictures, so it's not like it's something that I'm making up. So I have a concern. How is Porchlight, and Carla, you gotten some of my emails, and Dwayne, it's great that there's going to be housing because everyone needs a home. But how is Porchlight going to manage a 70-unit building when they can't manage a 3-unit right next door to me? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lupe. Go ahead, Bill. Who's the other one? I think we had Cliff Fisher.
Yep. Cliff Fisher, District 2, registered in opposition, wishing to speak, is the last speaker. Then there were a few people available to answer questions.
I have some of those. Okay. Cliff, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm totally against this location for this particular project. I support Porchlight in their effort to relocate, but I feel that it's very bad to have them right next to the beacon. The vulnerable people who would be residing in this apartment complex would be subject to the interactions with the daily visitors to the beacon. And I could feel that could have disastrous consequences. With the new bus system to be up and running in the not too distant future, I feel that there would be plenty of better areas for this particular project to be developed. The downtown already has its share of vulnerable people being housed. Would be better suited to an area that has outdoor spaces, freedom from the temptations that being near the beacon would present, which is, number one, the beacon does not take care of their property, garbage all over. They haven't even mowed their grass this year yet. If you look at Occupied Madison, their tiny houses are spread around different areas of the city, and it seems to be working nicely. Can somebody tell me why there is really that big of a hurry to develop this in a place that it's not well suited for? I think we need more input, especially from the police officers that I talked to. They shake their heads. They couldn't figure out why, with all the calls they have from the beacon and from Porchlight at their other locations, that you want to put more police calls into a certain area. And we can find you a place that's well more suited, which a lot open space that's not right in this area. And if you look at Occupied Madison, their stuff is spread out where there's a lot of open space and it seems to be working. So I don't know if people see the beacon, but I see it every day. I own the property across the street from it. My tenants have to deal with people urinating in the doorway, having sex behind the buildings of mine. We have to put, if you look, MG&E has fences all around their property. The State Powerhouse has fences around theirs. I have fences all around mine. You know, this is not the space to put one more group of housing. You know, I feel that they do a good job, but this ain't the right place. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. We have Stephen Schooler, Wabisa Avenue, Madison, in support, available to answer questions. Jordan Mader, Blount Street, Madison, in support and available to answer questions. Bill, are there any others that registered available to answer questions?
No, I think the only other one was Angela Komoski from the Madison Police Department, but probably considered as staff.
Okay.
Available to answer questions.
Okay. Are there, Patrick?
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that I think Mary Batari wanted to speak on this item, but registered for the subsequent item.
Okay, let's try Mary Batari. Mary is Sherman Avenue, I think, Madison. And Mary, could you confirm, are you in support or opposition? And you have 3 minutes.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I didn't register for or against this proposal. I am registering just to make a few comments and perhaps ask a few questions. I live not too far away, but also I worked for a lot of years for the city. I no longer work for the city, but I worked for the city during the time of the pandemic to protect our homeless population. We moved folks to 6 different locations during this time period. It was a tremendous city effort that I know that members of this committee know a lot about, but the public doesn't know a lot about. And, the plus for this location is that it's very close to transit and a grocery store. And it's going to be a great new building for the residents because I do understand the old building is sort of falling apart at the seams. So that's why Porchlight has been motivated in this direction. But the minus of this site has already been discussed. It's very close to a number of other housing service locations for our vulnerable residents. And I think there's sort of a general principle that many folks who work in this area believe that you don't concentrate people into one area, that's just inviting problems, and it's inviting people who are not of this population to come in and exploit them. And the city worked really hard, looked really hard for a site for our families. We separated out the families out of the Salvation Army location right downtown and put them in the beautiful residential area at the Carmenta home. I know it has a different name now. I can't remember what it was, but it's out on Milwaukee Street. It was just a great idea, great development, strong support of the Common Council. We looked very, very hard for the men's shelter site. We went east, we went west, we went north, we went south, and we looked downtown as well. And we found a great location out at the Bartillon site, and that seems to be, a sort of positive direction we're going in. And in this case, there's a lot of well-intentioned people who are sort of operating in silos and putting quite a few projects in a small, and I mean small, 5-block area. And you are one of the few committees that has sort of a bird's eye view of this situation, and you can sort of keep an eye on the situation. I would ask that you do, and that you ask a lot of questions of city staff, of building management.
Mary, that concludes your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Alder Rummel.
I just have a question for one of the speakers, if we're ready for that.
I want to see if there are any more. Yes, we're ready for that. Go ahead.
I would like to ask Carla Thenis to talk a little bit more about the resident manager she talked about in her opening remarks. I didn't get everything she said, but then later Kurt said that you had agreed to having 2 managers and basically coverage of 24/7. And I just want to verify and get more details about what you plan to do as far as like managing the site.
Can we get Carla back up, please?
Oh, I'm back in. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I would be happy to. So we currently have 2 resident managers at our Brook Street location. They are tenants, and they get a rent credit, that type of thing. And they, lock doors when we need them locked, open doors when we need them locked, kind of give us a report in the morning of stuff that's going on, that type of thing. I don't know if that's the solution for 24/7. We've never had 24/7 at Brook Street. We've never needed 24/7 at Brook Street. So that's certainly something that we would have to look at. But we've certainly had we've successfully used resident managers at this building and other buildings. So we will continue with that. The other couple things that I mentioned that I talked to the new captain about was that we do have an emergency call service that goes on as soon as staff are gone around 5 and then all weekend. And that's how, if a police officer needs to reach staff, they would do it through the emergency call service, and that's been very successful. And then we had police walk through our Brook Street building and tell us where they would like to see security cameras, and that has been very successful. And they're available to come and view and make copies of any of that stuff, and we would do the same over at the new location.
Okay, thank you, Carla. So basically you're saying you'd have 2 resident managers. Can you kind of give us an approximation of the coverage? I mean, would somebody like a live person be there on the weekend or at night, or how will that work?
Yeah, no, because we don't have people right now. I mean, they're not required to be there, all day Saturday or overnight, that type of thing. So we'd have to look into that. In the past, we did use a security team, and we frankly just didn't, for the cost. We didn't find it successful. And so, having a security team be there all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and after staff are gone during the week, at this point is cost prohibitive. But we will certainly work with the new captain and the team to see what's needed at the location, and put that into our plan.
Thank you. And I don't mean to be pushy, but I just still want to hear, so you have 2 residents, just how it works now. Why don't you tell me how it works now?
Yeah. How it works now is they kind of take turns working different days, and they have cell phones so we can reach them, and they just call the emergency staff, the emergency call number after 5 o'clock if they need to reach us, or if there's any issues, that type of thing. Their role is not to intervene or anything like that, or shoo people away. Their job is to let us know in the morning what's going on, to call the police or EMTs if it's needed. and to, like I said, they lock up laundry rooms and those different types of things, just things that need to happen when staff are not on site.
Thank you. That's all, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions of our registrant? Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. This is a question for Dwayne on the plans. Dwayne, and this may be in a site plan somewhere that I missed, but I was looking at the parking area. I understand there's 7 or 8 stalls. So with, that small amount, I can see that they would often be fully utilized. So I just wanted to confirm that there's enough room for a turning radius in that area. It looks kind of tight if all of the parking stalls are. I'm mostly asking, just thinking of, if a delivery truck is coming in with some donations, or if the police department needs to make a stop and pull in, is it easier for folks to turn around in that area?
Yeah, great question. There is a small bumped out area if we were on the site plan, about 4 feet, that would allow someone to utilize that to turn around if they were in the last stall. The other stall is closer to 10 feet. The stall that tucks under the building is closer to 10 feet, which should be enough. We have a 23-foot wide drive aisle, so the stall under the building, there's more than 10 feet to maneuver and get back out. I think the tightest stall would be, amongst the 3 that face the adjacent parking lot, the furthest one to that. And even that one has about 4 feet to maneuver back and go over a little bit, which is within, the allowable turning radius for a car. Now, a delivery truck or something like that, I think that's more of a pull in and back out. There's, a bigger truck isn't going to be able to pull in and turn around properly, or at least not within those last couple stalls. But see, there is a little bit of an extended area to the asphalt that goes all the way up to the property line.
Yeah, I see that. I guess my question more is if it's fully parked in. So, if an officer or another vehicle comes into the parking lot and all of the parking stalls are full, can they only basically get out by then backing out onto Blair Street?
Yeah, I guess they would have to back out, possibly there is an 8-foot wide van stall access aisle there that shouldn't be parked in, that maybe someone could maneuver in. But yeah, all the stalls are parked in, there wouldn't be a great opportunity without making a number of Y turns or backing back out, into Blair Street.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I have some questions for Dwayne and maybe Carla too. Dwayne, on the same related subject, do you know what the plan is for how those parking stalls will be utilized? Who will utilize them? Is it for staff? Is it for residents? And then also, the people in this building are certainly going to occasionally utilize delivery services. So just like we heard from the last question, I can imagine an Amazon van pulling in there and all the spaces perhaps are full. They're not only going to have to back out, they're also going to park a while. How would that be handled? And like maybe Carla can describe what happens now on Brook Street for such an arrangement. And also, I'm curious how many parking spaces are on Brook Street right now. I'm assuming it might be 0, but some information about parking.
Can I speak? Am I open?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Dwayne, you can certainly talk about how people move around and all that kind of stuff. I'll just talk. So at Brook Street, Alder Heck, we have about 20 spots off the top of my head. We do not allow residential parking. We don't have residential parking for residents at Brook Street. And we also won't at the Blair Street facility. I envision those 8 spots outside there on Blair Street to be exactly that, people stopping by to make a donation, people stopping by to visit somebody, like another outside case manager, that type of thing. Also, we are getting additional spots. So there'll be a few staff there, probably staff who have mobility issues and who need to be immediately on site. But the majority of our parking will be underground at the Continental. LZ Ventures will be giving us several spots there that we need to make up the number. So it's just staff. And so, yes, outside Blair Street would be more of the short-term parking for people who need to go, be there for an hour or so. People come for lease ups and interviews and that type of thing, like any normal property management company.
Okay, thanks. That was helpful. Do you feel, Carla, that one accessible spot is enough given the likely tenant population?
Well, we don't allow, our residents don't park there. And they don't, like I said, they don't park at Brook Street. So the one handicap spot would just be for anybody who's stopping by for some of those short-term needs. So
okay. I was thinking about getting picked up to go to an appointment somewhere or something like that. But if that's taken up by staff, then with accessibility needs, then that might get a little crowded. But that was helpful to hear about your parking on Brooks. Just one other question related do I'm kind of stalling here because I'm reading my notes. Oh, this is probably for Dwayne. Dwayne, do you know how people utilizing their bicycles will get outside? I didn't see a door. Perhaps they have to go down some stairs and going through a lobby type public area.
Am I unmuted, Patrick?
You're on.
Great. So yeah, the bike parking in the basement would have to be utilized via the elevator. It is a stretcher-sized elevator, so it would be adequately sized to allow a bike and a person to get in there. My understanding, and Carla or Steve could probably speak to this, but Porchlight doesn't utilize a lot of bike parking. We have to include that for our use in the city's requirements, but they're thinking they probably, we installed quite a few outside, more than would typically be outside for guests. So we're thinking some of that could get utilized for bike parking, especially people that come and go a lot, and that a lot of the basement bike parking would actually be likely unused just based on their tenants that are currently at Brook Street and how much of that bike parking is currently utilized.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. If I may, just a couple of questions for Carla, then unrelated to parking and such. Carla, I know we've read about the current operations on Brook Street and that these apartments appear to be a great step up for the 70 people that will have apartments there. I'm interested in knowing what will happen to the rest of the people that currently or have recently lived at Brook Street. Maybe I think it's SRO type arrangement. Where are those folks going to go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the Brook Street building is all permanent housing. It's 100 units, 87 are single rooms. Like you said, the rest are efficiencies. We carry a decent amount of vacancy at Brook Street just because we have a long waiting list. There's about a year waiting list for women and about a 2-year waiting list for men. And everyone pays rent. They have leases. They have all the legal guarantees of a tenant-landlord relationship. And so, so at any time, we just have, a decent amount of vacancy there. By the time somebody's name gets to the top of the list, they still need to have income and follow through. And so that can be a struggle for some folks. And then as we would get closer to this move date, we would just, as people naturally move out of Brook Street, we would just leave some spots open. But we do have Porch Light, including Brook Street, we have about 370 units of affordable housing throughout the city and a few in some Prairie. And so, I want to make sure that people know nobody is going to lose their housing because of this project. If for some reason somebody didn't want an efficiency, or we've got 75 people that now need to move, we would just move folks into our other housing opportunities.
Well, I guess I'd question that logic a little bit in that there's certainly no overage of affordable housing in the area now, and I'm sure that guaranteeing some of those folks somewhere to live comes at somebody else's expense.
No. Porch Light's housing.
Yes.
I would move them into Porch Light's housing, which we do control. So yeah. So if somebody doesn't want to move to Blair Street, or my numbers are a little high, then I would move them into one of our other locations. And sure. And to your point, is there a bunch of people waiting for all those units? Of course there is. It's very affordable housing. You're exactly right.
Okay. And then just one more comment, sorry, or question, I guess. I mean, I heard a couple of my former constituents when I was indeed alder talk about, behavior problems that honestly have, been going on for years and not addressed very well, in my opinion. And I can see where this building has the potential to be a much better situation. But I understand the trepidations of folks who live next to some of your smaller scale housing, units that are maybe 3, 4, 5 flats or something like that. I understand their trepidation about whether or not the security of this building will be sufficient. And I would encourage you to find better answers to some of the questions that Alder Rummel was asking about 24/7 security and knowing exactly who's going to be where, when. And so in your management plan and safety plan, I hope you will take those questions to heart and try to answer some of those items in a more reassuring manner.
Sure. Am I able to respond to that?
Sure.
Sure. I guess my point is we have never had nor needed 24/7 programming at our Brook Street facility. For the 15 efficiencies that we have at Brook Street, they stay full. Nobody wants to leave those buildings. They are $475. I have no police issues with any of those residents. They have their own space. If they have an issue with a neighbor or another resident, they go back to their apartment. So now I have a building of all 70 efficiencies with people who've been permanently housed with us for years. I'm getting rid of SROs, where we definitely have more issues with people in SROs. They're complaining about who took what from their kitchen and who didn't clean the bathroom and all that type of stuff. All of that goes away. So I'm sorry if my answer wasn't perfectly clear. I've just never had this amazing opportunity. So I'm not sure what we need.
Okay. Well, I'll just stop asking questions and giving inappropriate opinion at the wrong time. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heck. Are there other questions from commissioners? Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Carla. I have one last question for you. Just a clarification on my part. Also, High Plain Commission. I represent District 8, which is where Brook Street is. Carla, you had mentioned that Porch Light is currently leasing less units right now in order to, or something along those lines, where there's less people leasing right now because of this expected move. I had heard similar things from employees as well, which I found concerning since nothing had been approved yet. Can you just give a little bit more insight into that thought process over there?
Yeah, absolutely. No, this whole project is 2 to 3 years. We are not holding any units at Brook Street. We just have some natural vacancy because people wait a long time on our waiting list. And by the time they get up, maybe they've lost their income. Takes them a little while to come up with first month's rent and security deposit. We are absolutely not holding any units because of these Brook Street, Blair Street numbers.
Okay. Can you had mentioned earlier that the wait list is sometimes a year or more longer. If there are sometimes vacancies, why is it that the wait list is so long? Can you get into that a bit?
Sure. So our Brook Street property is different as far as our waiting list works, is different from almost all of Portside's other housing. Separate from Brook Street, so that 100 units, set that aside. 100 of our other units, primarily SROs, but some efficiencies, are taken from the coordinated entry list. And so when we have a vacancy there, I ask the coordinated entry staff for a name, they give us a name, we move in that person. Like, that's how it works. That's not how we run the Brook Street program. It's its own waiting list. We serve adult men and women. Everybody applies to this program. Everybody. So that's why it's just volume, right? You're looking for affordable housing. You get on every waiting list you possibly can. And so that would include separately getting on the coordinated entry waiting list, getting on the city's affordable housing waiting list, and getting on the Brook Street waiting list. So just by the time we find somebody, a lot of the people, when they come to the name at the top of the list, they're homeless, right? And so we don't if we can't find you on the first try, we keep looking, right? You've waited a while. We want you to move into our housing. But then they also have to have an income, a verifiable income, and first month's rent and security deposit. All of that takes some time. So it just takes a little while through the process, but it's not because we're holding units and trying to get down to 70 right now.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Are there any further questions of registrants? Commissioner Heck.
My final questions. Thank you. Carla, I understand that Porchlight is involved in some incredibly important services to our unsheltered community and also people with other needs. Will this particular project utilize city funding from community development division in its operations, or how will it be funded?
Absolutely. No, we receive no city funds at Brook Street. We receive about $33,000 a year from the county for a part-time peer specialist that provides some services at the program. No, this is just Porchlight and Porchlight contributions that are supporting the Brook Street program. We do accept Section 8 vouchers, BASH vouchers for veterans. But other than that, the rents are just kept low based on Porchlight keeping them low, but we do accept those vouchers. And of course, the whole purchase of the Blair Street building and the building and handing us the keys, that's just all a gift from LZ Ventures with no city funding attached.
So the city funding that Porchlight receives is more related to the men's shelter and the beacon and things like that, and other services you provide around the city.
Yes. So yes, we receive quite a bit of federal funds through the city, like ARPA funds for the men's shelter. And then we also receive about $100,000 from the city to pay for 3 case managers who work with our coordinated entry properties that I mentioned previously, but we do not receive any city funds to operate Brook Street or.
Okay, thank you. And just in terms of the, I guess, homeless services consortium and various people, including the community development division, do you get the impression that most folks are on board with your moving to this new building and somewhat reducing the number of available beds, I guess, that you currently have?
we've heard quite a bit of support in moving folks from SROs to efficiencies. I think everybody can grasp their head around that, how that's super important and definitely needed. The other big thing is the reduction of units, but I certainly don't think there's any neighbors on East Washington that would want us to put 100 units there. And it would be, there's size limitation. It would be 100 SROs, and we don't want that. So the most we could get out of there, which is 70, which I think is perfect.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Seeing no raised hands, I'll close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Alder Rummel.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if Chris Wells can answer this, but the addendum he noted, which I just read for the first time today, about the park impact fees, I don't really get it. It's affordable housing. Why wouldn't it be exempt from paying park impact fees? Is there just some loophole that it's not mixed income, that it's just, or what? Please help me understand that.
Chris Wells? Chris?
Or if he's distracted, we'll circle back to him.
Then we'll go to Bill. Bill?
Sorry, I don't have an answer to that, but I will text Chris.
The comment that I would make, Alder Rummel, is I think that parks conditions are extremely confusing because they have conditions that are that say that they are going to be, and then they say if it's affordable, then they aren't. So I totally agree with you that it is confusing. And if we can get them, because they do it on all of the affordable ones, they have these confusing conditions. And the answer I have gotten when I've asked and asked and asked to please make it clear is that when they review it to assess the park impact fees, they will make sure they do not charge inappropriately for affordable housing. So, Chris, if you have anything to add, please add it. And I would ask again that parks please try to make their conditions clearer.
Yes, I totally understand. It's something that we, as the chair mentioned, that we seek clarification on, and it's something that they just traditionally handle as part of final sign-off, given that things can change when there's a certain percentage or a certain number. They handle that when there's the fees, actually the payments are due to handle it, but I certainly understand the concern.
Did you have any follow-up, Alder Rummel?
No, it just seems so unclear that who knows if they're going to pay park impact fees at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
And at some point, hopefully somebody asks the captain questions. I mean, I could start, but
okay,
he's been here all night, so
okay. Alder Figueroa Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I couldn't see there's anyone here from legal, but maybe staff can help me with this question. So I know there are some guidelines that we get from the federal government regarding concentrated poverty on certain census tracts around the city. And I know there's some flexibility there based on transit and access to resources. But can someone tell me if that is a federal law or something that applies to everybody, or it just applies based on as part of a funding stream? Like, is that just for HUD and WIDA or avoiding concentrations of poverty around the city, something that anyone, I mean, ignoring that rule is something that anyone can do.
Chris or Bill?
That's not something that I can speak to, fortunately.
Yeah, sorry, me neither.
Chair, do you know anything about this, or anyone else from the committee?
This is not something that I'm prepared to or have the background to speak to. Sorry, Alder.
That's fine. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Commissioner Solheim.
Thank you. Well, I do have some questions for the police captain or who is here. Sorry, I'm scrolling around. Oh, there. Hi, Angela. I'm not sure if you have the staff report in front of you, but there was a list of a couple of things that were mentioned that the police department has worked with city staff to list some security related measures to include in a plan, controlled access with a key fob with some notes on that, security cameras on exterior and interior, secure package area, security and or staff to monitor cameras and do routine walkthroughs during non-business hours, and no trespass signs. I was just wondering if that covers what you've discussed, if there's anything additional that you feel was missed on that that should be considered by the commission.
Sure. So yeah, I worked with Chris and with Carla, and we kind of talked about what we would like to see from the police department as far as safety concerns. I think where our safety concerns come from by and large is not going to be for the residents at the new Porchlight facility, should it go in there. It's going to be a lot of the predatory behavior that we see from individuals that are hanging out in that area, whether it's outside the Beacon and that several block radius. We have several individuals that we deal with a lot that are not even supposed to be at the Beacon, but yet they're down there. And so my main concern for security with that building was not to have people encroach into that building that weren't supposed to be there, and take advantage of people who do have housing there, either victimizing them or trying to be in that building and spend time there. And so I feel with those security measures in place, and as we kind of flesh out more of what that resident staff looks like, that would be sufficient for that kind of access and security control.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up. I would think that a robust exterior security camera system in particular would be helpful for that area, including for things not related to residents of the building, as you mentioned. I think it was Carla that mentioned that the police are able to come to the Brook Street location and get tapes when needed. Certainly with the more modern security camera system, I've worked in developments where police are able to really easily access current footage or even tap into a live feed. I would assume that's something that your department has worked on with other buildings. Can you just kind of speak to how you work with property owners to utilize private security cameras when needed?
Sure. I'm not exactly sure like how many we have that remote access to. There are a few that we do in different districts that we have that kind of remote access where we can log in from a location and see that. And that would definitely be something that would be advantageous for us if there were issues, especially with that exterior of the building and things like that. So I know, yes, we have done that before with certain properties. I can't speak to how many we have done that with or the specifics on it, but that would be something that we definitely would be open to exploring.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Alder Field.
Thank you, Chair. My question is probably for Chris, maybe Bill. along similar lines to the previous line of questioning, on the security conditions, I had an exchange with staff via email about the security conditions wording pertaining to the submission of a security plan with those items. And I'm kind of just looking for confidence in the robustness that all of those components are going to come together in the final design, such as the security cameras being in the construction ready architecture. So as that condition attached to perhaps an approval goes forward, do staff then compare the building plans to verify that there are cameras for this condition, or is the security plan just kind of a separate standalone document expressing the developer's intentions to add those things?
I would think that it would be something that staff could verify as part of final sign-off. Certainly if it's in the plans and it's added as a condition. As a side note, I did follow up with Assistant City Attorney Kate Smith, but a certain development on Packers Avenue that was discussed earlier took up all of her day and she didn't have a chance to get back to me. But I think it could be added, and it could certainly be something that staff could verify as part of sign off that the location of the camp. I mean, certainly we would lean on the police to verify and confirm that it's satisfactory, but it's something that staff could handle as part of sign off.
Okay. Yeah, for the commission's background, I'd asked about the continuing jurisdiction of the Plan Commission for granting conditional uses and whether we could use that to consider or require the implementation of said security plan. But it sounds like some of that is addressed with sign off in that process. That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderfield. Are there further questions of staff? Further questions of staff? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Commissioner Solheim.
Let's see, I'll do all of these separate here. I will move that the Plan Commission find that the standards for demolition permits are met and approve the demolition of a 2-story building located at 521 East Washington Avenue, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Ugair. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Commissioner Solheim?
I will at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Comments? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hand, the motion passes unanimously. And now agenda item 15, need a motion. Commissioner Solheim.
I'll move that the Plan Commission find that the standards for conditional use are met to approve an 8-story mixed-use building containing 3,800 square feet of office space and 70 apartments, subject to the conditions in the staff report, including the addendum of staff report from the Parks Department, and to clarify that the security plan includes a security camera plan included with it.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mendez. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Commissioner Solheim?
Yeah, I'll speak for this conditional use. I appreciate this, and obviously Porchlight has been just so instrumental in serving our community for many decades, and I really appreciate the work that they do. I think it is their experience and commitment to the community that gives some comfort to some of the challenges that may arise with the site in the proximity, which has been discussed, and hope that really an increased presence at the site and additional staffing and security cameras can help mitigate some of the current challenges. But overall, I think that the building is well designed. It will certainly improve resident experience with the design of the apartments and improved facility space for Porchlight.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there further comments? Further discussion? Alder Rummel.
Thank you, Chair. This one has made me think a lot because I think some of the concerns are with the surrounding environment as the captain mentioned, some of the predatory elements that surround the beacon. And so I think the beacon is a thing that really needs the community, and especially the Eastside business community that Kurt mentioned, something I think they're willing to work on, and not sure what that means. And what I came to is it's not really Porchlight's problem per se, even though it is a problem they will face. And I agree with Commissioner Solheim that you want to protect people, so the cameras and all that help do that. I kind of sometimes wish maybe there was a different location, but they certainly have a right to apply, and they met the standards. And I appreciate Porchlight as well. I feel better about thinking through that people who are not in SROs are less likely to generate police calls than people that are fighting over who ate my dinner in the refrigerator. So, I was convinced by that argument. But so hopefully they're right, and they put all this stuff in place, and they're just becoming a new member of our community. So I support it, and I with some worries, but I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Figueroa Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I guess that if I were to take this vote, I wouldn't have any legal reason not to approve it. So that's, I guess I would probably vote for the approval, but I have to express my anxiety that the anxiety this project brings me. It's not just about the beacon. We have it different, we have St. John's coming up. There's a project that is coming down the pipe. We have the Y. We have so many other alike services in the area that I just really wish that this development, for example, had ended on the west side somewhere, instead of once again being in this high density population area. So I know that there's rules down from the federal government, but pretty sure that they only apply based on the funding. So it's one rule that is kind of logical, actually, to avoid to have these high concentrations of people that need the same level of resources in one area. It really pains me because this is one of the things that is at the center of everything I do, but I'm really worried about the impact that this is going to have, the negative impact that this may have on the people that are going to be living there. So to me, it's not just about the beacon, it's just about the whole ecosystem around that corner. So with that said, again, as a plan commissioner, I wouldn't be able to use a condition to eliminate, to say no to this, but I just wanted to express my concerns at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Other discussion or comments? Seeing none, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 16, need a motion. Commissioner Solheim.
I'll move that the Plan Commission forward the CSM to combine 521 East Washington Avenue into one lot to the Common Council with a recommendation of approval subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Gare. Did you wish to speak to your motion? Any discussion, comments? Seeing none, we'll come to a vote. I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda are items 17 through 20. They are related and will be considered as one public hearing. And then again, we need to make separate findings and motions on each item. Agenda item 17, Legistar 83527, 306 North Brook Street, Alder District 8, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a lodging house. Agenda item 18, Legistar 83907, creating sections of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property at the same location. From traditional residential urban 2 to regional mixed use. Agenda item 19, Legistar 83529, located at 306 North Brook Street. Consideration of a conditional use in the proposed regional mixed use district for a building exceeding 5 stories and 78 feet in height. And consideration of a conditional use for a vehicle parking reduction of more than 20 spaces and 25% or more of the required parking to allow construction of a 15-story, 189-unit apartment building. Agenda item 20, Legistar 83531, approving a certified survey map of property owned by LZ Ventures at the same location, Alder District 8. We will hear again from Chris Wells. Chris?
Thank you, Chair. Staff believe that the Plan Commission can find the proposed development meets the various standards of approval. Regarding the height and mass, staff note that there are 2 other buildings in the immediate area that are within 5 feet of the proposed building's absolute height of 1,032 feet. And it's similar to the adjacent building, the Grand Central Apartments mass in terms of 4 to 5 story base and then setbacks on all 4 sides. And therefore believe that the proposed building's scale, massing, and design fit in the surrounding context, and therefore believe it consistent with adopted plan recommendations. And also, as Chair mentioned, there is a parking reduction, and staff believe that the applicant has provided justification for why this parking reduction is warranted, given the majority of tenants being students, the proximity to campus, the wealth of nearby transportation options, etc. I would just note that there is yet another addendum, because this was the day of addendums. And given the fact there was not information provided about move in, move out of tenants, how the deliveries are going to be handled, etc., staff have recommended a condition requiring a management plan similar to the previous item. And with that, I would be happy to answer questions after public comment.
Thank you, Chris. Again, the applicants wish to pool their time 9 minutes with John Leger, Carla Venus. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Dwayne Johnson speaking for the 9 minutes. The first one is John Leger, Surrey Lane, Wanakee, support representing LZ Ventures. John.
Hi again, everyone. Again, thank you for your patience. Obviously, we just went through what led us to this. When you look at the surrounding site and where the Brook Street facility is currently located, it's completely engulfed by university style buildings. So it's a natural fit for additional student housing units to go on this site. Where better to add density than in the core of campus, in the middle of campus. So when we brought it in, we said, let's take a look at what we can do at Brook Street, have it complement Grand Central and 1001, which are both projects that we developed, built, and own and manage to this day, to concentrate students where they belong, and that's in the core campus. What it'll also do, and I've had this talk for 25 years as we've talked about density and height downtown, which is always an issue. It will free up another 500 plus bedrooms around the Isthmus because students are going to have a place to live. And if that's at the expense of others who want to live on the Isthmus, historically, even when I went to school way back in the Stone Age, that was the case. You know, I ended up renting way out in the Vilas neighborhood because it was the place I could afford to live. So we think it's a very appropriate project. We think it's a very interesting project. To something I didn't get to bring up in the previous discussion, we have been neighbors of this facility for more than about 15 years at Grand Central, 12 years at 1001. We rent, I think Carla could correct me, about 2,000 square feet in the front of this building where we have a gym that we have extended hours in that co-eds go in and out of all hours of the night and day, all during the school year. Porchlight has been an exemplary neighbor of ours. There is no reason we would have proposed the Blair Street site right across the street from our brand new Continental project if we had not experienced the management, the tenacity of the staff, and basically the folks who want to live in that building and just have their space in their life. So with the antiquation of that building, with the growth of campus, with the shortage of housing units, the time finally came right for us to put these two proposals in front of you. With that, I'll let Carla say a few more things, but I think she's probably beat this horse to death.
Carla.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I just had a couple comments. Our property at 306 North Brook Street is a nice little piece of property. It's just not necessary for the program that we run there, right? Like, I don't need all of my staff and 100 residents to be in the heart of UW-Madison campus. I need to be on a bus route near grocery stores, employment opportunities, healthcare opportunities. And so it's just a perfect spot for student housing, which, probably half of us are graduates of the university, so amen. And I also wanted to kind of talk about what John said about being neighbors for the past 15 years. Our last conversation talked quite a bit about security and potential concerns. So for the past 15 years, as John said, young college students have lived all around our building and have utilized the gym that we now rent out space in our building. And I have never received one complaint from a student, or probably even more importantly, one complaint from a parent of a student about them not feeling safe or having some, issue with any of the residents at the Brook Street building. That was all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And next then is Dwayne Johnson, Kanothi Bruce.
Thank you. Dwayne Johnson again with Kanothi Bruce Architects. 306 North Brook Street is highlighted here in yellow. It's on the corner of West Johnson and North Brook Street. As John had mentioned, it shares the block with Grand Central Apartments and 1001, which are also have been developed and managed by LZ for 14 and 12 years. Luther Memorial Church occupies the northwest portion of the same block. As you can see, the site is in the heart of campus with the new chemistry building to our west, Granger Hall to our east, and educational sciences across West Johnson Street. The site is 0.79 acres. It's currently zoned TRU2, and obviously the home to Porchlight's administration and long-term affordable housing facility. We are requesting to rezone the property from TRU2 to RMX, In addition to the demolition of the existing building, we are requesting conditional use for the building height and a reduction in the automobile parking quantity. Next slide, please. This slide shows a couple of screenshots from the city's website. The image on the left shows that we are within the boundaries of the Campus Area Neighborhood Association. CANA has no established design guidelines for this site. On the right side is the generalized future land use map from the comprehensive plan. And this is showing a recommendation of special institutional for the site and surrounding areas. As summarized in the staff report, private development and multifamily development in the SI designated plan area shall be considered appropriate so long as the scale, massing, and design fits in with the surrounding context. Next map, please. These context images show the current Porchlight building, which was originally built in 1952 for the University YMCA. The facility has not seen significant updates for many years. It has its original windows, insulation, and mechanical systems. It also does not have a fire sprinkler system, which is unsafe and would no longer be allowed in a new building of this type or occupancy. The 14-story Grand Central and 8-story 1001 buildings can be seen in the pictures and the adjacent to the site. Next slide, please. These are some images of the interior of the current building on Brook Street. As Carla and others have mentioned, the majority of these units are SRO, single room occupancy. They have shared kitchens, which can be seen in this picture, as well as shared restroom facilities for the majority of the units. The original building was not designed for this specific use. Porchlight has successfully made it work, but the facility has significant drawbacks and operational and staffing challenges and expenses. Next slide, please. We are proposing a 15-story, 182-unit student housing building. We are incorporating primary building entries on both street frontages with a large entry terrace in the center of the building facing West Johnson. Both street frontages have approximately 12-foot setbacks, creating areas for significant planters and landscaping. Conklin is to the north as a public one-way alleyway. Our 12-foot setback on this alleyway creates area for student bike parking, as well as a loading area for deliveries and move-in and move-out space. The west side of the building is open to a private alleyway between Grand Central and the proposed building. The side would be our access point to our internal parking, as well as access to 11 surface stalls. These stalls will also provide critical space during student move-in and move-out for all three buildings, which LZ management has successfully managed for many years in the existing two buildings. As we will see in the rendering images, the building steps back about 9 to 10 feet on all sides on the 5th floor. Next slide, please. Our internal parking is shown here in gray on the plans. The parking would be located on 2.5 levels. We feel, due to the location, student-centered use, and adjacent parking opportunities, that the 117 stalls would be adequate. The corners and other spaces within these lower levels will house our mechanicals, as well as 260.
Thank you. That concludes your available 9 minutes. The next registrant is Dan O'Callahan, in support, wishing to speak, representing LZ Ventures. Dan, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. As John noted, this is the counterpart to a 2-site development proposal being put forward by LZ Ventures. I'm appearing tonight on this item as a member of the applicant team. As I did on the earlier set of items, I want to take the opportunity to thank city staff for their review of our applications, We have reviewed the staff report. We agree to abide by all of the recommended conditions of approval, including the addendum that Chris referenced just a few minutes ago, and we urge you to adopt the staff recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We have registered Stephen Schooler in support and available to answer questions. Joe Porter, University Bay Drive, Madison, in support, available to answer questions, representing LZ Ventures. Are there questions for any of our registrants? Bill, were there some more people registered?
Yes, Chair, there was one other one who possibly, spoke on the previous one and may not be here anymore, but Mary Batari from District 6 registered in neither support nor opposition, but did want to speak for item 17.
Okay. Mary, you have 3 minutes.
Chair, there is no person by that name in attendance.
Okay. Then we'll go back to asking, are there any questions of any of our registrants? Seeing no raised hands, I'll close the public hearing. Are there questions of staff? Seeing no raised hands, I'm looking for a motion on agenda item 17. Alder Ugair.
I move that the Plan Commission finds the standards for demolition permits are met and approves demolition of a lodging house located at 306 North Brook Street.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Duncan. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Alder Ugair?
No.
Okay. I see that Alder Rummel has her hand raised. Alder Rummel?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to raise my hand to appreciate the fact that the applicant will put up some kind of historic reference to what I called the Brook Street Y. And full disclosure, I worked there for many years at the Main Course restaurant. I learned how to cook as a vegetarian at a very young age and worked at a workers cooperative. It started me on a journey of working in co-ops. And at the time I worked there, it was around 1980. And when the TA went on strike, and I noticed that they were mentioned in the staff report. So normally I would want to keep a building like that, but I realize that it's just one we have to give up. But it has such a key legacy, not just from the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, up until when Porchlight kind of took over all the functions there. So there was a lot of activity there at any given day. It was a wonderful place. So thank you for letting me share that with you.
Thank you, Alder. I appreciate your highlighting that. Anything else on this motion before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 18 for zoning, changing the zoning. Is there a motion? Alder Ugair.
I move that the Plan Commission forward zoning map amendment ID 28-022-00676, rezoning 306 North Brook Street from TRU2 to RMX to the Common Council with a recommendation to approve.
Including all of the conditions, I assume.
Including all of the conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Alder Duncan. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Alder Ugair?
No.
Is there any Commissioner Solheim?
I just wanted to make a note. I know we are not UDC, but I did really appreciate the exterior design of this building, we have seen a fair amount of large student housing developments. And this one does not have multiple rooftop hot tubs, but it does have a lot of brick, and the design is really beautiful. It complements the other development across the street. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or discussion? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 19, the conditional use. Alder Ugair.
Move that the Plan Commission finds the standards for conditional uses are met and approves a 15-story, 189-unit apartment building, subject to the conditions from the reviewing agency set forth in the staff report and the addendum to the staff report.
Thank you. Seconded by Alder Field. Did you wish to speak to your motion, Alder Ugair?
No.
Any discussion or input? Seeing none, Alder Govindaranja.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for talking about these items. So this is pretty much in the heart of my district, as discussed earlier. I'm in support of this. I've been working with LZ for quite some time, and they've been very responsive, addressing any concerns I've had. I do want to just put out there, like, I have been concerned about the location in Alder Rummel's district for pretty much all of the reasons stated earlier. I understand that both of these projects are kind of linked together, but this is a pretty good opportunity for students over here when it comes to at least this portion of the project. So I appreciate LZ for putting in the work and Plan Commission for going through and doing all the extensive conditional uses here. But yeah, that's all. Just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Anything else before we come to a vote? Seeing no raised hands, we'll come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Motion passes unanimously. And then the last one, agenda item 20 on the certified survey map. Alder Ugair.
Move that the Plan Commission forward the certified survey map to remove underlying lot lines at 306 North Brook Street to the Common Council with a recommendation of approval subject to the conditions from the reviewing agencies in the staff report.
And seconded by Alder Duncan. Any comments or discussion? Then we will come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, motion passes unanimously. Next is business by members. Do members have anything they wish to raise? Seeing no raised hands, and we're on the Secretary's report. Bill.
Thank you. Just very quickly here, a few things. Recently, I think last week, you should have all gotten an email from Lauren asking if there are any other emails that you may use other than your official Plan Commission email address that would have been the address she sent the email to. We got an open records request regarding this bike path that was previously proposed in the Sauk Creek Greenway. And multiple agencies have pieces of this request, as well as several different commissions. So the city attorney's office asked us to check in with our commissions to see if there are any other emails that you may use that you may have gotten any emails about that from. So if that's the case, please let Lauren know that so we can include that in our open records search. I just wanted to highlight a couple very quickly. Upcoming matters in July 29th. The Urban Design Commission Code Update Phase 1 is tracking, I'll say, to the July 29th meeting. And so we are anticipating that will be on your next agenda. Another item I wanted to highlight for your next agenda is the Camp Randall Sports Center. So this is the replacement of the shell next to Camp Randall with athletic training facility and parking stall adjacent to Camp Randall Stadium. So that will be on your next agenda. And I guess everything else is there. I don't need to read through your whole agenda for next time, but those are a couple highlights.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I think we are on to a motion to adjourn. Moved by Alder Field, seconded by Commissioner Solheim. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Motion passes unanimously. See you on July 29th. Thank you, everybody.